And we're live. Are you ready to rumble? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Impossible History Quiz, episode number 2. Episode number 1 was with Brandon. It wasn't called the Impossible History Quiz at the time, but it is now retrospectively because you can change the title of YouTube videos. And if you were there for that stream of Brandon, you know the game, you know the drill, you understand what is going to happen here. I think it's where we gather two intellectual titans from the history YouTube. I think I would use that phrase to describe it. Intellectual titans. I certainly would. Who will test their knowledge on very, very obscure trivia about things that they know a lot about. So we will be competing. As you can see, I have the leaderboard here. I ran out of room for putting my nom de guerre up, but Matt's, I just got paint on me, that's fine. But Matt's is almost entirely there. Look, so we'll be tallying up the scores. We each have 10 questions, and we'll be asking each other the questions. We'll be waxing poetic, no doubt coming up with iconic quotes in the vein of Mark Twain or Benjamin Franklin, just really incisive, cutting commentary about the topics at hand. History will be made tonight, folks. And in the meantime, we will, come prepared with questions of your own. Between the quiz questions, we'll answer your questions, and we'll see what the fuck you guys are up to and what's on your minds. So, Matt, are you freaking ready to go? Are you ready to do this?
Let's go!
Let's go, dude! Let's freaking go!
Yeah.
Well, first of all, let me just. This is a man who needs no introduction. You all know him, and you all love him. But if, just in case you don't, Mr. Beat is an icon of the history YouTube sphere, entrepreneur, thought leader, professor extraordinaire, who influencer, yes, and currently available for scholarships, or not scholarships, sponsorships. But the channel Mr. Beat is a wonderful channel that you should all subscribe to if you haven't already. Yeah, definitely do that. So, Matt, should we hop right into the action and get on to our first freaking question here?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the kind words, by the way. That was really nice of you to say that. Some people do hate me, though. So just for the record,
only assholes.
We welcome the haters too, though. Please. Come
Matt does because he's nice. He's from Kansas, like Ted Lasso. So he does. I don't personally. No.
You know what? Come on, bring them on.
Yeah.
Just keep my mustache here.
Yeah, exactly. We're both bearded today. We both have the same level of beard, pretty much.
Well, you inspired me, Atun-Shei.
All right. How about I start with our first question here?
Okay.
I've got them right here that I printed out on my printer, which is a device that only us wealthy influencers can afford.
I can't afford one yet.
Well, there you go. So all right, here's our first very obscure history quiz question. Is everyone ready? Good. Question number 1 from Mr. Beat. In his will, George Washington, do you know who that was?
Yes, I do.
George Washington stipulated that only one of the people he enslaved should be freed upon the president's death. What was that enslaved person's name?
Oh, gee. The name? Are you kidding me? Oh, well, I'll just have to take a guess on this. Yeah, I've been to Mount Vernon twice, and I should know this, right? Let's just say, can I just do last name?
Yes. Yeah, I will accept the last name.
Smith.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
No, you were wrong. And yeah, you weren't correct. His name was William Lee.
Oh, wow. Lee.
Yes. A Lee of Old Virginia.
Yeah, the irony.
But yes, very ironic. Very ironic.
Yeah.
And you made a pretty awesome video about George Washington fairly recently, Matt.
Thank you. Yeah, I did not put that factoid in there, though. But yeah, it's you ever get a chance to go to? Have you been to Mount Vernon?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah, no.
No, I have. I have once.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. It's a little pricey these days, but it's still worth it because you can tour the whole grounds, and yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, well, I liked your video about him too because it was like I thought it was very even-handed.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, I had
and
I'm a little nervous about releasing it, and I mean, he's still my favorite president. People have a hard time separating the whole slave thing from the man. But you know, who in history is perfect? I mean, no one. So who from the present is perfect? I mean, I own slaves. You gonna judge me on that? Come on.
Well, you know, it's kind of like, well, you know, I think about this all the time. Maybe this is just a window into my fucked up psychology, but I kind of think that I have money that I'm not using, and there's like people in my city, you go down to the Claiborne Bridge, and there's like people living in tents.
Yeah,
and they're just like they don't have, and they're just out of work. They just live in tents. And it's like, I have money that I'm not using, you know, and the money that I am using is to like make my little movies, you know. It's like, I legitimately think about this. Like every day I don't like dedicate all of my money and all of my time and attention to like helping those people get houses is like a profound moral failure on my part.
Oh, you can't be like that though. Cause I mean, for 12 years, I was a teacher. It was a thankless job. I got paid crap. I worked 70-hour weeks, and, I still couldn't help everyone. You know, it's like, you just got to do what you can do. And honestly, it was kind of foolish of me to go into teaching. I wanted to do it, but at the same time, I wasn't able to pay the bills. Like my family needed more income. Like we couldn't pay for daycare some years because I was just a teacher. And so, I mean, it's just one of those things where you just kind of, the other thing to think about that maybe will help you sleep at night is like, these videos that you make, you know, I would like to think the goal of especially history tubers in general is to, you know, try to make the world a better place, try to build empathy. So maybe we can create a society that's more empathetic overall, where we can provide more resources for those folks in need. You know, I mean, most of the problems that we face are systemic. And as individuals, oftentimes we do feel helpless. So why not just like aim high in terms of like saying, hey, look at this whole freaking system and bring awareness to it. So that way we're kind of like having it's a bigger net.
I think you should probably cut soy out of your diet, Matt, because you sound ridiculous right now. This is a dangerous level of empathy. It's not very masculine, and it's frankly not very American. So no, I could not agree more. We have a couple of super chats. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Zeta has given $100 just because.
That's nice.
That's beyond nice. That's incredible. Holy shit. $100. Fuck. Thank you. Falcon says that I taught more than high school ever did about what matters. That's right. The high levels of soy in the modern diet and how we grow tits because of it. Yeah, Yankee soy boy. You're right about that. But thank you guys. So why don't we move on to our first question from Matt?
Okay.
Let's get this moving. I'm ready, coach.
My questions are too easy. I don't think you're going to make me tell a name. All right. How many approximately how many Canadians fought in the American Civil War? Ballpark number.
I'm just going to have to go into my my mind palace here, Matt. $50,000.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh!
you do that?
I knocked my light over.
How did you do that?
Well, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I'm not.
Well, did you know that some
Say what?
Canadians fought for the CSA? You knew that too, probably.
How many people fought for the CSA?
I couldn't find the exact number on that. I know some Canadians came down and fought for them.
The CSA. Oh yeah. Well.
Good job.
That was just. I think that was just. You know. I mean, the titan of the intellectual titan at work. Well, what can you say? I know. I thought it was somewhere around there, but that was honestly a wild guess. So. I'm kind of like, as far as Civil War questions, I kind of like going into this, I was just like, please don't ask about the Western Theater after 1863. All right. That is 1 point for me. See that? That's 1 point.
Someone said to stop destroying your set, but you know what? You're done with your set, right? It's already all filmed.
I am done with this particular set. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we are, let me see if I broke my light here, that would be bad, but 1 second. Oh, there we go. Oh, hey, it works. Got that lovely backlight on. Perfect. See, only moderately destroyed. Yeah, I actually, one of these lights, when we were filming my movie, The Sudbury Devil, up in Massachusetts last year, one of them fell over, and they've got these big battery packs on them, and a battery like bounced off of a rock and landed in the fire because we had a fire pit. It was like pretty central to a lot of the scenes, and of course, batteries in fire. Yes. Explode. So the first AD Veronica reached her hand into the flames and grabbed it out. Whoa! And it was only a little tinged, but that was something that could have been bad. There were a couple of those. I mean, it was overall a very safe set, but we were out in the woods for like 2 weeks, so
Yeah.
Sometimes things went down.
Well, it's a good story.
Yeah. And then there was another time when one of the first days of filming, this one actor, my buddy Carl, who I grew up with, he like did high school plays with me and shit. He was in a scene. We were shooting in this historic house, and there was a fireplace in the historic house, and it was going, and another actor was like smoking a tobacco pipe in the scene. And we were shooting a close up of one actor who was kind of doing this really emotional scene, and they were just getting really worked up and everything. And Carl's character was kind of just had his hand on his shoulder. It was sort of like had it like in comfort, Mm-hmm. And Carl's character is very sort of like stiff upper lip, very like just sort of like high postured, kind of a tight ass, So he was kind of doing this the whole time, and he was locking his knees. And as we were doing the scene, which was quite long in this house, the tobacco smoke and the smoke from the fire, in fact, it's just an old house, and it was like kind of stuffy. He fainted on his feet, and we were just watched, as just locking his knees, and we just were watching through the lens that the hand just kind of slip off of the shoulder, and the man just fall and this guy, he's like 6'5". He just like, whoop, boom, and his head fell into the fireplace. This makes my movie seem like a fucking disaster, but it was actually not that bad. But these are the only two major things that happened. It's just a good story, so I'm telling you. But his head fell into the fire. Of course, everybody sprang to life, grabbed him. We tore his costume off. We brought him outside. But there was like a hot 5 seconds before he kind of just came to and was like, what? Where I was just like, did I kill my friend? You know what I mean? Because sort of you sort of imagine the worst case scenario. He hits his head on the stone and just pool of blood. It's like, is this movie that I've been, that I have like a large amount of my personal fortune staked on, and that I've been working on for 3 years, did that just end in an instant, And am I, going to face criminal charges? There was like a hot 5 seconds where I was like, I could be completely fucked. Yeah, but he was okay. He needed food and he needed water. He's such a nice guy, and he didn't want to make a fuss, but we were staying in this historic house. And it was like 30 degrees because it was early April in Massachusetts. And he was so tired when he got there, he just went straight to bed. But he was too nice to ask for anything other than the sheet that was already on his bed. So he was shivering away all night, barely slept,
Oh my God.
barely ate that day, and was locking his knees in the smoke-filled room. So, it was kind of the perfect storm of disaster.
You're a monster. How could you put your friend through that?
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, it sounds worse than maybe it is. We took safety very, very seriously on this show. But
that movie isn't out yet, right?
It's not out, but it will be out either late this summer or early this autumn, if everything goes according to plan. We have we've been talking to a venue for a premiere, but we're waiting to set a date until a couple of things are kind of in place. But it's going to be awesome. It's going to be the best thing that I've ever done. If you like my videos, then you're going to fucking love this movie. So you should watch it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Especially after those stories.
Yeah, I know, and there's a million more as well that I can get into, but I won't go. I won't go too crazy here. Okay, well, should we move on to our next question?
Sure.
All right, fuck yeah, let's do it.
Your turn.
All right, my turn. Okay. I'm sorry about this one. I think it's possible that I may have written harder questions than you have, which is exactly what happened with Brandon, unfortunately. He won. I thought he was going to cream me too. He won, but only barely. I was in the lead for much of that game. All right. The last question was about William Lee, a man enslaved by George Washington. Lee was somewhat renowned during his lifetime for his skills as a fox hunter, which he was wont to do from the back of his favorite horse. What was that horse's name?
You son of a... Why? You serious, Clark? Oh my God. What the heck is this? You know what?
I'm sorry. You're going to get the next one, I swear.
Oh, you like my butterflies, by the way? I forgot.
Oh, I do. Those are cute.
So, soy guy. I guess I have to guess again. Comments? I'm looking at the comments.
I will say there are no rules. There are no rules in the Impossible History Quiz.
Somebody said horsey McHorse.
Cheating is not only encouraged, it's expected. No, I'm not going to cheat. I'm above that.
Let's just say Grant.
That would be hilarious, but no. The horse's name was Chinkling.
Oh wow, that's a cool name, actually.
That is kind of yeah. It's like a bell, Chinkling, it's like a little bell. Yeah, it's nice. All right, why don't you? Let me check if we got any super chats here. Oh, I think we do. Oh God, did somebody? Here we go. Falcons Fighter Tales, thank you so much. Were you one of the YouTubers making war movies back in the mid to late 2000s? Simpler Times. Also, I'll pay $69 for a signed DVD of the Sudbury Devil. There might be a Blu-ray, but I don't think a DVD. I didn't make. I don't think I ever made a war movie. I made a Western. I made this was in high school. I made a Viking movie. I made a vampire movie. I made all sorts of shit in high school that you will never see. It'll never see the light of day. And that will be buried forever because they're embarrassing. They're not that bad. But they are embarrassing, But there's some good things in them, Man. All right. Do you want to hit me, Matt? With
I do want to hit you after those two questions.
Okay.
All right. This one's too easy. This is way too easy. So I'm gonna come back to it because
I'm ready.
All right. This is probably too easy too. Did Jefferson Davis fight for the Union or Confederate side in the Civil War?
Neither. He was the president.
Good. It worked. No, it was a trick question because there was actually a Union general also named Jefferson Davis.
You motherfucker.
Well,
that was a good one.
I'll give you the easy question next. Easy.
No, please don't show mercy. Don't show mercy. Be cruel. Be.
Oh yeah, there's a story about that guy. I didn't even know about him until I looked this up. But the Union General Jefferson Davis, apparently he was approaching. They were kind of like sneakily approaching another group of Union soldiers. Maybe it was dark out or something. I don't know. But they said, "Who goes there?" And he's like, "Oh, it's
Jefferson Davis.
It's Jefferson Davis." And they were all like, didn't trust him.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's me, George W. Bush, to all my, Al Qaeda friends. I mean, it's like
right.
Yeah, I don't know. And the Union, very comparable to Al Qaeda in pretty much every way, I would say.
Oh,
yeah, that certainly makes sense. It's interesting. I think the people in the chat are they were just immediately Jefferson C. Davis, Jefferson C. Davis. I think they would have gotten that right, But
I'm pretty good at Googling.
Yeah, it might be that. But, it might also just be that they are smart.
No.
Yeah, or you know what?
You're kidding. You're smart. You're all smart. I'm so sorry.
You're all smart. You're very fine people on both sides. Okay. All right. There's all sorts of weird like Civil War stories like that. About. I feel like there is like a bit of a mythological aspect to the Civil War, just in like. It's just in the way that sort of Westerns are mythological. You know what I mean? It's like there's so many like folk tales about like cute little folksy things that happened, and it's kind of like how true are they? Who knows? Like a lot of the stories. I mean, even though this kind of did happen, it does also kind of smack of Victorian romanticism, and you kind of wonder how widespread this actually was. But the kind of thing where it's just like the Union and Confederate soldier would meet, in the middle of the shallows of the Rappahannock, and the Red would have tobacco and the Yank would have coffee, and they trade and they'd have a drink together, and then the next morning they go back to the firing line, and it's just like it just kind of like it probably happened, but it's also one of those things that maybe got blown out of proportion by some very sentimental 19th century folks.
Well, and one very unique thing about this war is the generals a lot of times were right there in the thick of it,
True.
Before and after. I don't know, I don't know a lot about all the wars in history, but there were a lot of generals who died because they were just right there. They were right in the middle of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's something like probably somebody in the chat would know this better than I would, but I think it might be something like the highest concentration of generals killed in like any modern war. I think that's true, but I don't know.
About right. Yeah.
But it was very high. It was kind of like if a battle was sufficiently bloody enough, it was like some commanders were getting iced for sure. This is an interesting question, also Civil War related. Icy Saracen says, apologies for a low question, but do you think the Confederates would have cheered 9/11? I like that question a lot, but what do you think, Matt?
Shout out to Kevin Wilmot, who directed a great film called The CSA, where it's
I've seen that movie.
Yeah, it's a mockumentary. It's actually recently saw him, so it was really cool because he lives in the same town as me. But this whole premise was of the film that the CSA won the Civil War, and that you had still two countries, and still in the modern age, slavery was still legal, which I don't think is realistic, but it's still a fascinating exercise. So if it was still its own country, recognized by other countries, long established, I do think there would be a segment, definitely. But at the same time, it would be, I think people forget how closely tied culturally we still would be.
Yeah.
Like I compare it to the American relationship with the UK, same thing with Australia and the UK. It's like you kind of always have this bond with them because of a shared culture.
Yeah, and language and stuff. Yeah,
But yeah, it probably wouldn't be that many people. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think. Well, I mean, I think kind of maybe an interesting possibility, like, and honestly, maybe the most likely possibility, like, if the CSA was still around in 2001, then certainly the wildest aspirations of prominent Confederates and the wealthy white upper class of the South would have been realized, and and when one of their sort of stated goals wasn't just to sort of separate from the United States, but to overshadow it as sort of the great North American power. So and and a lot of that included pretty aggressive kind of foreign policy decisions. So it's entirely possible that if their kind of wildest dreams came to pass, then 9/11, the planes would have flown into the World Trade Center in Richmond or New Orleans or Atlanta rather than New York. Yeah, I mean, if we're kind of talking about a not just victorious, not just triumphant, but like mega successful Confederacy, then yeah, they envisioned nothing less than superpower status. So yeah, I think they would have just as stand just as much of a chance of getting attacked than the United States would have, for sure. But that is but hey, props on just originality for that question, dude. Because
yeah, gotta love it.
Here's another one. Joel says the American Civil War came very close to being a world war. Could you talk more about that? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that necessarily. Just as far as like if the British and French had come in. I don't know. I don't know. I find that possibility kind of far-fetched, but I think
you could say the same thing about the Ukraine war today. Then, like if because like it's most of the countries were just on the sideline, just kind of watching to see how it went.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, without a doubt. No, yeah, I don't know if that might be something for might be a question for Alt History Hub. Not little old us. Here's another interesting questions. Again, points for originality, everybody. These are kind of cool. If America gets a larger Hispanic population, will we start to care more about the Spanish royal family instead of the British? Interesting. I mean,
I don't think so. I think we're kind of over royalty in general. Like the reason why I think people made a big deal about the Queen, her passing, I think mostly is kind of self-absorbed reasons, because she was kind of this symbol of stability in the world, and so that's the only reason why so many people like fixated on her. Like it was more than her.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a very strong anti-royalty strain here in the States.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, I would say, I mean, I would hope not, because I would just hope that like most people would just kind of get over the whole thing of the people with the magic blood.
I thought you were a monarchist, Atun-Shei. I thought you were a monarchist.
Yeah, no, not little old me. No, I would say, the dragon house with the magic blood, maybe we could do with less of them, just generally. It's been 10,000 years. Could we maybe stop? It's getting a bit old for the magic blood stuff. It has been a long time, that we've had to deal with the magic blood people, and they're getting a bit old, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, hierarchies aren't going away anytime soon, though. So
dare to dream.
There's still the gentry.
yes, technically. But globally, we're we're the pampered aristocrats.
Yeah, but we're supposed to be the social mobile society, even though we're not really anymore. But like where anybody can come here and anybody can go from rags to riches.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big part of the mythology of the United States.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. Okay, let's do a couple more questions, then we'll move on with the quiz. Thanks for the super chats, everybody. For both of you, do you have any wisdom for us students of history who read the news and despair at the idea that things will ever get better? I'll leave this to our resident optimist.
I tend to be more optimistic about this. Like I even tweeted about this the other day. There's going to be tens of millions of people in this country that look back at this moment, this year, 2023, with nostalgia. They're going to remember the good things. And then also, if you look at overall trends, we still are generally headed in the right direction. I mean, you have typically a 2 steps forward, 1 step back pattern in modern history in terms of, I'm not talking about technology, that's pretty linear, but in terms of social progress, like in terms of increased tolerance and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, we're going through a bit of a reactionary phase now. That's what I think we're seeing, which, yeah, this happened in the 1980s. If you're concerned about that type of stuff, like I would say, I don't know what your thoughts on this are, but maybe we might even be less divisive in 2023 than we were in 2020. I see signs that maybe the division isn't quite what it was. Like it was pretty bad in 2020. I mean, I have vivid memories of the division especially around the presidential election.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, I didn't particularly like the movie, and this person has, kind of gone on to it was revealed that they did some bad things, but the line that I really liked in the Andrew Callahan documentary that came out on HBO last year was I think it was kind of the introductory narration or something. They said we kind of, even just kind of a couple years later, we kind of tend to forget just how crazy things were in 2020. Just how kind of close to the edge we got, and I think that's very true. Like I think things have calmed down, immensely in the past couple of years. I mean, it's something, looking back on it, just that whole year, COVID and the election and January 6th, it does have a bit of a dreamlike quality. I don't know. Do you feel like that, Matt, where it's like, it feels like it didn't happen?
Well, yeah, especially now that the pandemic is pretty much over. Like it does. I mean, and I have nostalgia for 2020, parts of it.
I do too. Deep quarantine, sitting at home in my pajamas. Me and my partner playing Super Mario Odyssey. That was kind of awesome.
One positive thing about 2020 is it kind of reawakened a lot of people in terms of, what it forced them to reevaluate what they were doing with their lives. And we've seen this anti-work movement, which has a horrible name. These labels are horrible. It's just like saying, what's
anti-jobs,
or the abolish the police. Like, no, don't say that. Don't say
yeah.
You got to work on your marketing. But anyway, I would say there's been some movements that have even influenced, I would say, a rather conservative Democratic politician by the name of Joe Biden. Even people forget how he kind of leaned to the right for many years. That's why he got along so well with a lot of Republicans.
Yeah.
He has shifted further and further to the left, not because of maybe, I would say, his own personal convictions, but because of societal pressures. And so
trends of, no, I mean, absolutely. I mean, would you say, I mean, it seems like this is, please correct me if I'm wrong, and if I sound like I'm making a fool of myself, because this is your wheelhouse, but like, I mean, it seems like he is kind of like, I mean, honestly, he seems like the most progressive president of the 21st century.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
Kind of by a long shot, right?
I mean, Obama was pretty centrist. You want to get realistic here. He was, especially economically. I'm not talking about like social issues, because he shifted his views on gay marriage and stuff like that. But in terms of economic policies, undoubtedly Biden is further to the left in terms of his support for unions, for climate initiatives, infrastructure, basically pushing for more rights for workers overall. Now it's not perfect. I mean, obviously, he's still all about drill, baby, drill. He's drill the oil. You know,
Yeah,
he's a protectionist.
Drainage.
People forget that he's a protectionist like Trump is. Although he used to be more of a free trade guy. That's where Bernie got to him. Bernie influenced his, I think, his views on trade.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, it's interesting because he's shifted through the times.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. Yeah, well, and it's kind of tough to like, well, and the whole like student debt thing as well. I mean, that's like, I mean, you know, it's not radical is the wrong word to use.
Yeah, that's
but like
something. It's something.
It's like it's drastic. It's certainly more drastic than what we've come to expect out of Washington, right? Like
marijuana policy. Like he that was mind blowing to hear that he pardoned all those marijuana. I mean, it wasn't much, but it was something.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah, well, it's always good to get your perspective on these things, Mr. B, because I always, you know, when you and I disagree on issues, I'm kind of just like, I wonder if I might have this wrong, because like you're very well informed. And
well, somebody's already in the chat saying, "Oh, Mr. B, he didn't allow the unions to strike in the railroad industry." I'm like, yeah, it's not. He hasn't been perfect with unions. He's not like
no,
he's no Bernie Sanders, but
no, that's for sure.
There are exceptions to that.
No, but no, definitely, it's good to get your take, and yeah, often, you know, and one thing that I find that's just very, you know, refreshing about your approach to contemporary politics is, you know, not just on YouTube, but on, you know, on your various social media, you know, happenings. Follow Mr. Beat on Twitter if you don't already. But yeah, as you kind of just tend to, you know, whereas most other people kind of get lost in the highly charged culture war stuff, you kind of just tend to look at like, okay, but like, what is the work that they're doing? You know, what are the actual policies that are, you know, that are being effective? And it's not like, you know, and there are some aspects of culture war stuff that are like very crucially important in a matter of kind of morality, you know, certainly I'd put like something like trans rights under that umbrella, you know, but you know, but a lot of the time you can kind of get lost in the reeds, or, you know, certainly speaking for myself, like I won't speak for others. Like I can kind of get lost in the emotional breed of like, those motherfuckers, you know, they're trying to take our freedom away, you know, and I get all worked up, and it's just kind of like, okay, but like, what did they vote for? And you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, yeah. What they're saying kind of one thing on CNN, but you know, what are they actually doing in their job? You know,
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's continue with the quiz here, everybody. Thank you so much for the super chats. Whose turn was it? I think it's mine, right?
Yes, it is.
We just did Jefferson Davis, right? Okay. All right, question number 3 for Mr. Matthew B. Abernethy Creek is a small river somewhere in the western United States, named after a notable European settler to the area who would go on to become a territorial governor. What major historic site does Abernethy Creek run right past? I'm prepared to give a clue.
You said it's in the western United States.
Yes.
So you mean like Mountain West, like west of the Great Plains?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'll take your clue, please.
You have been there recently.
Okay, it sounded familiar. A historical site.
A major historical site.
Okay, let me think.
Where this notable person settled. They stopped there.
How about Fort Laramie?
That is incorrect. It is the end of the Oregon Trail.
Oh, I thought about saying that.
Yes. Well, you should have. I remain in the lead. For those of you who have just joined us, I remained in the lead. It's like the most exciting football games, low scoring. We've got me with 1 point, 1-0 over Mr. Beat, and we'll see if I can maintain the lead going into the first half, or whether Mr. Beat will take control of the engagement. Who knows? Anything can happen.
Well, I'll switch it up to Colonial now.
Okay. All right. All right. Oh, although, well, before you do though, just real quick, I do want to both, I know I maybe texted you about this or something, but I just wanted to plug to, the 540 of our closest friends who are watching, that the Oregon Trail documentary, the feature length documentary that Mr. Beat made recently was really fucking good and very and underrated, underviewed, I would say.
At least partially inspired by you, by the way, because I
Oh,
was trying to like make it more cinematic, and shout out to Mrs. Beat, who is a drone pilot now and got some good aerial footage. And
yeah, that looked great.
I mean, sometimes you just got to go all in for a project, even if it doesn't do that well.
Yeah, no, well, no, it's all about, it's all about the good, it's all about the work,
Oh,
yeah,
so much fun.
yeah, and no, and I love travel documentaries, but I especially love, you don't see them a lot of just kind of documentaries, travel documentaries, reality TV these days. It's I understand why that people don't feel like they want to necessarily show kind of the less sort of glamorous things about what happened in like travel shows or whatever. And I get that people don't necessarily want to get too personal because the internet is a horrific place, and you don't want these monsters to kind of know things about you. But at the same time, what I really loved about your Oregon Trail documentary was how you included the bits where it was like got kind of testy and like got kind of hard and it was just like sort of got testy intense in a way that only a family road trip can, and like and it added like because we've all got families, and like we all know what it's like, and it added like a level of relatability, where it was just like the girls didn't want to come with me to the museum at 7 a.m, so I'm just there myself. It's like, yeah. We have all that everybody's dad has done that, and no, it just made it so much more charming and so much more relatable and just sort of like and it's like when you said just frankly like this day we weren't having that much fun because we needed to make the miles and stuff. Yeah, that was just awesome. It gave it a sort of very human, relatable kind of element to it.
It's good to know. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was an adventure. Like the whole gimmick, for people who don't even know, the whole gimmick is we drove the Oregon Trail, the auto tour, in a Tesla. But the auto tour doesn't follow all interstates, and so there's some pretty isolated 2-lane highways that we had to follow. And so sometimes we almost ran out of battery because we had to find a charging station way off the path, and that was the whole gimmick. Like, oh well, it's an adventure, like it was an adventure for the pioneers. And
yeah. Well, you've got to include hardship when you're on the Oregon Trail.
But nothing but nostalgia now, baby. I have fond memories of that trip, and so do my daughters, whether they are willing to admit it or not.
Yeah, no, I mean, I dragged my partner on a 3-week Appalachian Trail hike in 2019.
That's on my bucket list. Yeah.
And she's, it's like, there were good memories. There were also bad ones.
I mean, but nothing worth doing is easy. I put the quote by Teddy Roosevelt in there. Like if it's easy, screw easy. Like it's not what life's about. So.
Yeah, I think Gandalf said that, not Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh, Gandalf, of course. Yeah. Destroy the One Ring. Yes.
All right. Do you want to hit me with this next question here?
Yes. Should be a little easier, I'm thinking. But that said, okay. if you get it wrong, I'm going to feel bad. So.
Okay. Don't feel bad. You just this is a competition. This is about murder. This is about blood. It's about blood sports.
Yeah. There will be blood. So colonial history.
Yeah.
American colonial. Name 2 of the 3 main religious groups Puritans didn't get along with in colonial Maryland.
Ooh, Maryland. Okay. Quakers.
Yep.
Anglicans.
Yep. Very good. I thought you were going to say Catholics because that's what the first thing I thought of, and then the other 2 I didn't. Yeah, like those are the 3 that just.
Yeah.
All right.
Those are the 3 highly problematic religions.
Puritans were the only ones who were right. They were the ones who were all about
I would say that
sexual freedom and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
As I learned from you.
Exactly. Yes. My defense of the Puritans. All right, everybody. The score is 2-0. Your boy, Mr. Beat, lagging behind. I suspect it's because he went slightly easy on me on the, I guess, the impossible thing. You know what? It's probably because you've been having too many impossible burgers. That's soy again.
Oh, the soy.
That's making you less of a man. Actually, you know what I've been getting into? Speaking of soy, I legitimately eat like metric gallons of soy. I love tofu, but I've been getting into soy curls.
Never had it. Yeah,
they're really good. They're like, you get them dry. You can order them online, and they're dirt cheap.
Like shit,
basically, and it's like and it kind of looks like pulled pork or like it's like a chicken. Yeah, or like or kind of chicken strips, I guess might be the closest thing. But it's basically just like a blank slate, culinary slate, and you just like and you hydrate them, and then you squeeze out the water, and then you throw them and you saute them, and you could basically just put like whatever sauce you want, and then just like put it in like pasta or what I do usually is I just like put it with rice and like veggies and stir fried veggies, and so you can like put like hoisin sauce and make it kind of like an East Asian thing, or you can like put like buffalo sauce. And we made we recreated honey mustard chicken wraps with soy curls from Cookout. Speaking, for those of you from the Southern Appalachians, will know Cookout honey mustard chicken wraps, which they don't have down here. So we recreated them with soy curls, and they were freaking delicious. They're really, really good. But yeah, you just get them online, and you get them in bulk for like $30. You can get like 3 months worth. It's crazy. And
you can become a soy boy too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, well, when people first started calling me a soy boy, I did not eat that much soy, but now it's like I'm a tofu man. I'm not a soy boy. I'm a tofu man. Thank you very much. All right. Let's see some super chats here. Lady Tyler, erstwhile patron, sending in a question saying I'm biased, but Mr. Rakish, it's Rakich, Tyler. Rakich with a C. God damn it.
They know your real name. Okay, I can.
How dare you? Yeah, it's out there. I kind of gave up on that, But Mr. Beat, how much do you know about pirate history? Anything counts, but I know a certain New Orleans pirate is well known, Jean Lafitte. But anything else? Do you have a favorite pirate, Mr. B?
Oh, I guess Blackbeard. I mean, just fun. I mean, that's who I learned about when I was a kid.
Sure.
I have a video about the Barbary pirates, and that's always fascinating. The Barbary Wars, when Thomas Jefferson was president, and then James Madison, like how the United States was like too broke to pay off the pirates when the French and British, oh yeah, no problem, we'll just pay you to get through, and so like people don't realize there's this little war that broke out between the Americans and the Barbary pirates. So that's always fun. The French pirates that people never hear about French pirates, but the French pirates who I've been researching lately, who were in modern day Haiti, they were interesting. They pretty much like lucked out because most of the Taino people had died off, and so they just kind of had most of the island to themselves. Like because Spain really didn't really conquer Hispaniola that much. They kind of neglected it, and so these pirates were living it up down in the Hispaniola.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite pirate?
I don't know. I think Jean Lafitte definitely wouldn't be it. Jean Lafitte, of course, famously quite famous here in New Orleans, and famously lent his support to the American army led by Andrew Jackson during the Battle of New Orleans. He didn't actually fight in the Battle of New Orleans. His brother did, though. His brother was a pretty skilled artillery commander, in fact. But Jean Lafitte often thought of as kind of a swashbuckling kind of piratey dude because he was a pirate, and that's and pirates are fun. But of course, this was like 150 years after the golden age of piracy, or not quite 150, 120, whatever. But it was a long time after kind of the Pirates of the Caribbean type pirates were not really a thing anymore. And in fact, he made most of his money from slave trading. So not a nice guy, kind of a gross dude. So a lot of the mythology surrounding him, especially kind of in tourist areas in New Orleans. You go to the French Quarter, and oh, Jean Lafitte this, Jean Lafitte that. Oh, fun pirate guy. It's like no, it was the opposite of fun. That guy was a real piece of shit. But fascinating figure just in terms of like his. Nobody kind of knows really what happened to him when he like after the Battle of New Orleans. Like he, like a guy in Missouri, like 30 years later, claimed to be him and like wrote a memoir or something. But that's like the historicity of that is debated. So it's sort of a bit of a legendary figure, so that kind of aspect is kind of fun. But no, as far as the, apart from kind of, as far as like, naval stuff in the golden age of piracy, I'm afraid most of my knowledge and my heart lies with my boys, the Lemoyne brothers, who were, not pirates. They were normies. They were French Canadians, aristocrats who, they were both, I like them because they sort of are associated with both where I grew up in New England and where I live now, Louisiana.
Yeah.
And they were kind of, in both places, fucking shit up. So
just a reminder, that's why I had him collaborate with me when I compared Maine and Louisiana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. People don't realize the connection between the two areas.
No, there's for sure a connection. I do definitely. I got to make it up there. Actually, speaking of, we were talking about travel before we went live and kind of places we've been, places we'd like to go, and I've been to Montreal once when I was like an itty bitty little child. It's not far from, where I grew up in Massachusetts, and obviously I've still got family there. I go back all the time, so it's like less than a day's drive. I'd love to get up to Quebec City and see, Fort Frontenac, and get up to French Canada, see the sights, because that's a really cool, kind of part of American history that often gets, somewhat neglected.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what else we have here, everyone. All right. Let's answer a few more of these questions, and we'll continue on with the quiz. Jeff says, "Why is the Pequot War overlooked?" I think much the same way that King Philip's War is overlooked. It's really gross and disgusting and disturbing and inhumane, and involves a lot of murder of innocent people. And so, it's just it's not really how we would like to see ourselves as a nation, and that's kind of, that has an element of it that's like, it wasn't just the, with King Philip's War, it's like the next generation, right? After the Pilgrims and after the first settlers, so it's like a little bit more excusable. It's like the One Ring corrupted them or whatever, you got to morally justify that, like, no, this was the generation that was bad, but the Pilgrims were all great, but the Pequot War was like straight up the fucking Pilgrims. You know what I mean? Like, they just like went in there and murdered a bunch of kids, so it wasn't not all of exactly them. There was a lot of New Haven and people in Massachusetts Bay Colony people, but it was the same generation. It was the same sort of social group of sort of early settlers, and so it's obviously that's not a very comforting thought. Sort of America being born in blood, as it were. Okay, so Mr. Human, thanks for the $5. Did you ever make a video about Would you ever make a video about propaganda techniques the Southern planter class used to make poor whites believe in white supremacy and slavery? Ooh, good one. Maybe I'll make a video about that. Yeah, it's interesting. The one kind of sad truth about that is that a lot of them didn't need much propaganda. Most people accept the world as it is, the world that they're born into, right? And it's hard to think of, when the society that you live in is defined by something, it's if you're to sort of acknowledge that thing as evil, then you kind of have to reckon with the fact that the entire foundation of your culture and your society is evil. And that can be very hard to face up to. A lot of people don't want to do that. And so I don't think that much propaganda was, in fact, very necessary. But there was, there was certainly, like, it was out there. Like, people were, there was certainly, there was certainly a lot of fear mongering about abolition that kind of went beyond just sort of the normal kind of appeals to home and hearth, which, to be fair, and I often get accused of this, but to be totally transparent, I've never denied that, defense of home and defense of hearth was not a factor for, why Confederate soldiers went to war. I dispute the fact that it was the only factor, which is what,
right.
Everyone has insisted on, you know what I mean? It's that, the common soldiers, they were just blameless, it was just all about home and hearth for them. It was nothing to do with slavery. Like, nah, slavery was a factor. It wasn't the only factor, but it was a factor. I don't know. What do you think, Matt? Am I off base here?
Yeah, I think you're mostly right, but definitely it's hard to think back during that time without comparing it to today. I do think today propaganda is much more effective in the age of mass media. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of us like to think we're free thinkers, but we're really not. Like most of us just walk around just repeating something we heard in some kind of media. So, I mean, like, I
do that. I totally do that.
We all do. Yeah.
I totally do that.
Well, but the other thing that you kind of hinted at this, and I'm going to make a big video about this, hopefully this summer. Tribalism. I mean, it's just something that is so part of who we are as a species that it's pretty easy to get us to hate another group. You just got a few little things to kind of, and then distance. Like back in the 1850s, 1860s, like most Southerners never even went north of the Ohio River. Yeah. So, I mean, one thing I always say, one of the best things we can do now to like kind of teach the next generation is give them opportunities to travel, make it cheap for them to travel and studying abroad. If you can study abroad, do it.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, travel can often be, an antidote to bigotry.
Really can.
Yeah. Okay. Should we go back to the quiz here?
Yeah. It's your turn, right?
Yeah, it is my turn. I'm going to hit you with another hard one.
Of course.
I'm sorry. I will maybe I'll half points will come into play because I feel bad for making this too impossible. But we'll see. Maybe you'll know. This is entirely possible. This is about Supreme Court things.
Okay.
Right? So and it also kind of ties in with my particular city of New Orleans. So in 1892, Homer Plessy boarded a whites-only train car and was promptly arrested, which would kick off the infamous Supreme Court case, Plessy v. Ferguson. We all know about that. In which New Orleans neighborhood was Plessy arrested? There are a couple answers that I'll accept here.
Actually, I remember reading about this at one point because I've made 2 videos about Plessy. Let's see. Gosh dang, it's at the tip of my tongue, kind of. I feel like it's like.
I will also accept his destination. Either the starting or the ending point.
It was the county. It was the county that he was going. It was in the next county over.
Close.
I don't remember the name of the county. It seems like it was. I don't know. St. Charles. I don't know.
No, not St. Charles. It was St. Tammany Parish. He was going to Covington, Louisiana. The neighborhood that he was arrested in was the Bywater. I would have also accepted the Upper Ninth because I know a lot of
Upper Ninth. That's what I remember reading.
Yeah, reading the Upper Ninth Ward, which I know it's Bywater is kind of like a it's hipsters like me who call it the Bywater. Old timers call it the Upper Ninth. But so I would have accepted that too.
I've never been to New Orleans. One of the.
Well, you got to come. You gotta come.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, if you and if let me know if you and Shannon come down and stuff. I will, I'll put you up in a place that doesn't suck. I don't want to say too much live because I don't want to give away personal information. But like, I have a line on a place.
Here's my social security number. Yes,
here's the address. I have a line on a place that you guys could stay for free.
Cool.
It's nice and not just a couch.
That's nice.
Yeah. That would
nice
be, you're welcome.
At least you could do after these questions.
I apologize. It is the impossible history quiz. But that's all right. Okay. All right. Do you want to hit me with your next question? Then we can
all right.
some super chats. All right. I'm ready.
All right. James Oglethorpe, who probably you're familiar with, he set up a charter when he founded the colony of Georgia. The charter only explicitly forbid one religious group from worshiping there. What was that religious group?
In Georgia. I don't know, but I'm going to say Voodoo, like a West African religion.
Like voodoo?
Yeah.
No, that's an interesting guess. No, Catholic. I'm surprised you didn't throw that one out there. Yeah. The charter said specifically no Catholics are allowed in Georgia.
Damn.
When he first set up the colony.
Goddamn Georgia. They've been rotten from the very beginning, haven't they?
Yeah.
First, it's the anti-Catholic thing, and before long, you've got a horrible football team and terrible traffic. Well, you got me. But I was not able to add to my lead, which, if you're just joining us, I lead 2-0. Mr. Bede has yet to answer a single question correctly. It's he's struggling. He needs some prayers.
Because I can't remember the name of the George Washington's one slave that he freed's horse. Because everybody knows that.
Yeah, I know. It's it was not the horse, but the name of the guy was in the first paragraph of his Wikipedia page, and then I just clicked on his name, and then the horse's name was in there. I was like, well,
you go down a Wikipedia hole, and then you're like, ooh.
That was sort of the one I was like, maybe he'll get this if he was like at the Wikipedia page recently, Okay, let's answer some super chats. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. Here's another spicy one, and this kind of goes into your urban-rural divide video, which I also really enjoyed, Mr. Bate. Is a second U.S. Civil War possible? Oh, and you also did the national divorce thing based on that lovely woman's comment. Do you see a similar north-south divide or a red state, blue state divide? How would military assets be divided? Yeah, no. Yeah, it would be a horrible partisan war with a million sides, and it would, if it were to happen at all, which doubtful. Yeah,
exactly. I've been asked this question actually alarmingly too much, and so, but I always say, it is highly possible that you see isolated groups that do try to do something.
Yeah.
You keep an eye on certain militia type groups that have been stockpiling weapons, and I always bring up the Waco siege, like a group like that. That they were members of a cult, but remember, there's a lot of people out there that it's pretty much their whole ideology is cult-like, and so there's parallels there, and I imagine, the federal government, almost like even those in the federal government and the military, all the federal executive branch departments, even if they are conservative, I think most of them understand that, hey, we've got to do what we can to kind of keep we got a good thing going here. We don't want to ruin it for everyone. And so I just feel like we concentrate so much on the loud voices on social media when most of them are just kind of yelling into the wind anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think a civil war is coming. If anything, you might see it if you, like I said, isolated.
Like terrorist attacks, well, it's like, I think kind of going back to 2020, again, I think if there was ever going to be a serious, like, armed struggle between, not just like different militias or like a left-wing partisan group and a right-wing partisan group or whatever, if there was ever going to be like a serious, like this group of politicians against this group of politicians, then it was going to be, the election on January 6th. And like, I think if it wasn't that, then it's not, because it's sort of like, you kind of have to think about, like, not just sort of, oh man, my uncle sure hates me and thinks I'm a soy boy. You got to think about like, okay, what would these people in positions of power like have to benefit from this, right? Like, because they're the ones who can actually like bring the big guns, right? It's and they're the the people who could actually organize something like this would be a president or a powerful senator or whatever. Am I crazy, or does this make sense?
Well, yeah, you kind of hinted at something here. I think that might be the exception to what we're saying. Is I do feel like if people kind of ignore the culture war stuff and they look at only the economic stuff and realize that a lot of the complaints on the right end of the spectrum are the same as the left end. They all join forces and they look at DC and the true elites that really kind of pull, the whole George Carlin bit, like it's a big party, but you ain't in it. Once they realize that those are the ones, because like I can always predict how the Supreme Court actually is going to decide in a case where it's essentially corporations versus anything else. People were afraid about YouTube, losing its ability to promote videos through its algorithms. And there's this Supreme Court case that Google versus Gonzalez that people have been freaking out about. But when I listened to oral arguments, I could tell like, oh no, they're going to side with the money. They're going to, because the powerful people all benefit from the current economic structure. And
exactly.
They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot.
Exactly. Why would they?
The exception is if there was actually a bottom-up revolution, and to get to that point, people would have to be really desperate, which we've been on that path for a while. I mean, if you look at extreme wealth inequality, it's worse now than it was even in the late 1800s. So they might want to start.
I like this talk, Matt. This is nice and spicy.
I want a revolution.
But no, I mean, it's that's very true. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of the Commissar Cletus and Commissar Catgirl could accomplish great things together. You know what I mean? Who's to say? But no, I think you're right. I think it would have to be, but the sort of cool your jets, NSA. We're just speaking hypothetically. We're not planning anything. But it's sort of like, I think for anything like that in terms of like actual revolution or a serious kind of like armed disruption of like American civic or social life, I think it would, you're right. It would have to be like truly dire for like most people who are just want to, pay the rent and like protect their families or whatever. It would have to be truly dire for them to actually give a shit. And, because, it isn't like it was, 200 years ago where it was like, I was ashamed that, I didn't sign up to join the militia. It's like people are kind of savvier, they're not like, why am I going to go die for that stupid shit? That's kind of thankfully, the prevailing attitude. So it couldn't just be like, you can't just get on the pedestal in the town square anymore and say, citizens, the French are coming to take away, they're disrespecting the king. What are we going to do about that? People are going to be like, well, fuck the king, in the words of Sandor Clegane, like, why is this my problem? And so, I think it's I just think that we're kind of like in, just in terms of military history, it's like, we're just in a different epoch. You know what I mean? Like you look at Ukraine, you look at what Putin's doing. You can't just go into another country and steal everybody's shit anymore. You know what I mean? You can't just like, I'm going to take this over for Russia because I want it. People are like, you're going to be, that's a profoundly uncool thing to do. It's not in. So, you know what I mean? But like, you can't just do that stuff anymore. We're in a different era. It isn't like the 18th century anymore where, you could just kind of say, oh, I want my borders to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to send, 100,000 people to their deaths. You can't get away with that.
because of the nuclear possibility. Because you could have a deranged dictator, of course.
Sure.
There were concerns about North Korea and even Putin. But I think even with Putin, he really cares a lot about legacy, it seems. And so you can't have a legacy if all the humans are dead.
Yeah.
But I think economically is really there's a reason why the Federal Reserve and really all of the federal government, all they obsess over is either unemployment or inflation. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
Because if those are out of whack, then that's when a revolution will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Without a doubt.
Imagine if we were like Argentina that has 100% inflation.
Yeah.
They have 100. From this year to last year, their inflation rate was 100%.
Yeah.
And you were complaining about 6% here, like, oh.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're wrong.
And even that 6%. That hurt. You know what I mean? That was that hurt. Although there was also a lot of, as I understand it, just kind of also price increases that weren't related to. It was just kind of like just kind of corporations increased prices all around in kind of response to that. So there was also kind of price gouging as well. I think that was a factor. I don't know.
True inflation really was only the San Francisco Fed actually looked into it. That it was only a third of what it should be. The other reason why it's prices, really, it technically all is inflation. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Like the causes of some of that inflation has legit just been price gouging, like giant corporations saying, "Oh, we can get away with it because we either have a monopoly in the market or a duopoly." And what are you going to do about it? Or basically, the government is they're in bed with us. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. So I got a very, very large super chat, so I want to address it. 55 Canadian. $1 Canadian.
That's cool, though.
Thank you, Cole. That's incredibly generous. Holy shit. Have ever done a collab with Overly Sarcastic Productions? I have not, and I'm not familiar. I'm aware of their existence, but I'm not familiar with their channel. But they sound fun.
They're awesome. I gotta meet those folks.
Are you a fan?
Yes. Very nice.
Fun.
Check out their channel.
Okay, cool. All right, should we let's move on to the next part of the quiz, which if you're just joining us, or if you've been here and you just forgot, I am in the lead with 2 points.
Shut up.
There's nothing. Hammer's in the lead. Richmond falling behind. All right. So is it me or no? It's you. Or
I don't remember. Have you asked me?
No. You asked me. It was you because you asked me the question about Georgia, which I got wrong. I got wrong. A rare misstep for the Atun-Shei team.
All right.
But I have the next question. I have the next question. All right.
Oh, you do. Okay.
I have the next question, so I'm just gonna. All right.
All right. Oh, I'm asking. Okay. Yes.
No. I'm asking. I'm just getting ready to throw my pitch here.
Okay. All right.
I'm just psyching myself up for this question.
What are you doing? Okay.
All right. Question number 5 from Mr. Beat. Which American president began his political career as a member of the Anti-Masonic Party?
Anti-Masonic Party started in the late 1820s or early 1830s, or it was probably late 1820s. So, I'm going to take a guess and say Martin Van Buren.
Close, but no, it was Millard Fillmore.
Oh, Millard Fillmore. Yeah, I probably would have guessed him second because I knew it wasn't William Henry Harrison, or John Tyler, those douchebags. But
no, very close. He's right in there in the obscure presidents that no one remembers. No, that was a valiant effort. But,
get one right. That was my only chance to get one right.
Some of these might be a little easier, but maybe not. Okay, well, hit me with your next question here, Matt.
All right. You know what? I'm going to slightly alter this question.
Okay. All right. Bring it on.
All right. This is a little mean what I'm doing, but just because.
All
All right. So as you know, and probably most people know, more people died in the Civil War from disease than actually getting shot at or stuff like that. Bullet wounds, cannonball, all that. So yeah, let's get down to the specifics here. Name 7 different disease-related deaths that Civil War soldiers commonly died from. 7. Yeah, 7.
All right. All right. Everybody, I need everybody else in the audience to keep
Don't
track.
look at the chat.
Diarrhea.
Yep.
Cholera.
No, that wasn't common. I mean, I guess I'll give that to you. It wasn't as common, but all right.
It's your niceness is going to be your downfall here, Matt. You're too nice. Typhoid.
Yep.
Flu? No. Yellow fever.
No. That was later on. That was bigger, like in the Imperial Age.
Well, we had it here in Louisiana kind of forever. It was,
that was late 1800s though.
Well, yeah, there was a big one in 1878 here, which I know because I was writing about it. But and 1853.
The Slaughterhouse cases actually started with that whole thing. Those 4 cases. Anyway, sorry. I should give that to you too. But
okay, so
before you said diarrhea, cha-cha-cha, cholera, typhoid.
Flu.
No. Remember, it was common for soldiers, Civil War soldiers to die.
All right. So poop water, poop food are the big ones. But
well, yeah, on the right track. There's another one you haven't said yet, related to the poop. If somebody's just now clicking on this video and they hear me say that.
Yeah, related to the poop. God, I should know this. I'm kind of a connoisseur. Norovirus?
No.
I'm not sure about poop, but what about zoonotic diseases? What about from
what is a zoonotic disease? I'm not quite sure.
It's a disease that comes from animals.
Oh,
specifically animal farming. So I would imagine lots of most diseases. Honestly, that doesn't really lay it down. I don't know. I might have to concede. I don't know.
Okay. Well, yeah, because some of these are surprise me. So.
Well, I concede. I give up.
Okay. Well, dysentery.
I yield to take.
You didn't say dysentery. I thought you were going to say dysentery.
Oh, fuck, dysentery.
Yeah. But the ones that surprised me were like mumps.
Mumps. Okay.
Yeah. Chicken pox. Measles. Whooping cough. If you would have said smallpox too, that was
whooping cough. Yeah.
So I mean, I just think we always forget about this. Like all wars, and obviously World War I, like the vast majority of people that died from the, for lack of a better way to put it, Spanish flu. I know that's kind of racist to call it that. Is there another word for it?
It's from Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas flu.
Yeah, Kansas flu.
I know. I used to live near Fort Riley, where the first outbreak was in the United States. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Nice. No, but it's very true. Yeah, I mean, and again, just like we were talking about with COVID, it's like you think that was bad. It's kind of amazing how such a relatively mild disease. Just because we have a global society and whatever, and just we weren't prepared for it, and and it really
how lucky we are that we had a vaccine so early and ways to fight it. Like when Spanish flu, they're like, we're screwed. Just I guess ride it out. If you don't die, then I guess you were meant to live.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't die from that, you can die in the trenches. It'll be great. No, totally. No, it is true. I mean, I do. That's one of my one of the things I kind of remember most about my kind of early when I first got into the Civil War in like high school was there's a lot of diarrhea in these books. It's just like there was just so much diarrhea all the time.
Apparently, Thomas Jefferson had a horrible death related to diarrhea.
Really?
And he was older,
Yeah,
but apparently it was just extremely painful for him. And same with James Polk. Polk had cholera though, and just one of those things you don't want to get that.
No, you do not. You do not want to poop to death. That's a bad way to go.
Like fire coming out of constantly, basically.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. That'd be just awful.
Constant burning.
Yeah, it's yeah. I didn't know that that's how TJ went out. I just thought he was an old ass man. But I guess even when you're very old, you got to die of something, right? It's not.
They always say die of old age. I always get a kick out of that. Like, die of old age?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. Died of natural causes. All right, let me check some of these super chats here. I guess thank you for the $5 once again, Mr. Falcon's Fighter Tales, or Mr. or Mrs. or non-binary person, whatever. Gonna get up on a soapbox and say, I guess this is in response to what we were talking about earlier. Now is the time to unite and be the best Americans we can be cool, be strong, and keep on keeping on. We're doing all right. Yeah. I think I agree. I think it's I kind of left things that previous question about kind of hope up to Matt because he's better at that sort of thing than I am. I'm a bit of a misanthrope myself. I wasn't always, but I am now. But maybe that's just a phase. It's kind of funny. I feel bad about this, but I was on a podcast pretty recently, and I kind of I don't know. They asked me sort of like, do you have like? They just caught me on a bad day, and they asked they were asking about like lost cause stuff, and they're like, do you have hope for that critical thinking and will kind of prevail over this sort of politically charged misinformation? I was just like, not really. Kind of went on a bit of a downer rant, and I could tell that the guy was just like, it's not quite what the answer that they were looking for, and then I kind of turned around. I was like, let me start that again.
It's all right. I mean, especially when we spend a lot of time studying history, a lot of it is kind of puts you in a bad mood too, because you're just you get kind of caught up into it. I can't believe that happened. I can't believe these things happen. What?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I feel like especially sort of maybe it's I guess maybe it's the older you get, the more that stuff affects you, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember myself when I was 19 reading about a massacre and thinking it was kind of just whatever, that was 1,000 years ago, kind of okay, too bad, but ultimately whatever.
We've gotten better.
Yeah. It's it was 1,000 years ago, whatever.
I
guess I relate to them more. Maybe
I remember first learning about the Satanic Panic in the Attic type stuff. That's an album that I just referenced. Satanic Panic of the 1980s. The whole moral panics that happened. And I was thinking, why were people like this? And now we're living through it again. We're seeing more moral panics, and that will make you cynical, because you're just I thought we went through this before, people, and then we learned from it, but here we're doing it again. And I mean, it's not quite exactly cyclical, but it's pretty close.
No, it is. I mean, and I know people who have specifically kind of in the I've got friends who have who are a little older, and who had when they were kids, they were teenagers who got their early lives kind of fucking almost ruined by being the center of Satanic Panic stuff, and in the in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s and stuff. And I mean, it's that it's to have your kind of entire community, especially if you're kind of a weird kid, or you're not sort of quite normal, and maybe you're living in kind of an isolated community, or sort of a particularly religious community or whatever. If you're the kind of person who's probably going to move to Brooklyn when you're 18 anyway, and then you're sort of, they wear all black and listen to the wrong kind of music, so let's ruin their life. I mean, that's, That's truly that's I mean, I can't even imagine how that would affect somebody, but it would certainly make me, I certainly wouldn't be able to handle it very well. But I also think, like, I mean, you're a parent, I'm not, but I have, like, I've got loved ones and I've sort of built a life and stuff. And I also kind of, like, I find it harder to kind of stomach a lot of the, like, and the Vikings came in and murdered everybody, it's because I kind of put myself in that situation. And it's like, I know what it's like to build a household and, kind of build a life. And then if a bunch of Vikings show up and murder everybody I love, that's, gonna be the worst thing ever, so I guess I have less of a stomach for that, than I used to. And I think it also, I think that's also led to me just generally disengaging with military history and honestly finding much of the way that military history is talked about as kind of grotesque.
It's kind of cringe, honestly. Like, I used to be, I mean, most kids are really into military history, but I definitely grew out of that. And no disrespect to all the fine military history channels on this platform, by the way.
We love you.
We love you. Yes. But it's still, I think it's mostly a gateway to, like, learn more history, because truly, I think, profound parts of history you're not going to find in battlefield tactics and, like, oh, he came over on the left flank and caught him off guard. No one cares. You're not going to be a military strategist when you grow up.
Yeah,
but it's fun. Video games are fun.
Video games are fun. Yeah. No, totally. It's always, I always, it was cracked me up, the Charlie Brooker show that used to be on, like, the BBC or whatever about 10 years ago, called Newswipe, that was talking about something about some strategy game, and it was like one of the new Total Wars or something, and it said, and I think the line was, and now you can be your own armchair Hitler and, and, like, take over continents. And it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, those games are fun, and I still play them.
I get ads for those games. Yeah, they do. Like, okay, maybe I will check it out.
Yeah, but it's also, those games do kind of encourage you to just, like, seize power at any cost for power's sake and just murder,
dehumanizing
continents. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Same effect that driving a car dehumanizes us, or being on social media dehumanize other people. Yeah, it's the same effect.
Yeah, if you're not looking at somebody in the face, it's exactly. Yeah. The car thing is so weird, because I do it and I'm, like, intellectually aware of it, and I'm not. I mean, I'm one of those people, like, who won't honk, like, almost ever.
But you flip them the bird, right?
I do it to myself. I do it subtly, or I go, like, fuck yourself. You know what I mean? But I don't, like, but I do it, like, I don't antagonize people, because, well, I mean, first of all, because I live in a place where a lot of people get murdered, and, like,
murder capital of the country. Congrats.
Yeah, and I also, and it's like, frankly, you just never know, like, who's gonna be like, dun, dun, like, move, asshole. Just
road rage has gone up, and
you just, like, never know, like,
serious.
And I tend to, like, and I was talking to one buddy of mine about this, and he was like, you should probably not do that. But I also have a tendency when I get, like, really raging drunk to, like, want to start fights, and that's a bad thing. Like, that's a good way to just, like, fucking die. You know what I mean? Because you just never know. It's just gonna be like, you just never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, like, I won't honk unless they're, like, about to careen into me. So it's just kind of a rule that I have. I generally just don't honk. But I still do that. I still, like, somebody's doing something stupid, I'll be like, fucking asshole. It's like, I don't know what's going on with them. Like, I wouldn't say that. I would, if I was right next to them, I wouldn't be like, you fucking asshole. It's like, why do I do that? That's so stupid.
Yeah, I guess we're just animals.
True words have never been spoken.
Pretend like we're not. Yeah,
we do pretend like we're not, but we totally are. It's not a bad thing to be. I love animals. Okay, so let's. Why don't we move on to our next question here? Is it me? I think it is me.
I keep forgetting.
Well, because you asked me about
disease.
No, it's me, because we've been doing good. We've been doing, like, me, then immediately after you, and you asked about the Civil War diseases.
Right on.
Okay, so question number 6 from Mr. Beat.
Bring it.
Which Greek philosopher mentored George Soros in his youth?
Oh, yeah, I made a video about this. Let me find that part of my brain somewhere. Oh man, come on! I knew this.
Now I've got you on the spot. I know you know it, but you're not going to get it because you're on the spot and because the pressure is too much. These are just mind games. These are mind games. I got to get you back for this for the diseases.
Yeah, he was. I think he was British. He met him at Oxford. The Oxford professor who influenced Soros. I mean, he was a big neoliberal.
Yes, I would accept a half point for his rather than his name, his influence on George Soros.
Yeah, I mean that's everything because if you look at Soros, people think he's this big lefty, because in recent years he's supported so many left-leaning candidates, but he used to support conservatives. He's just a big market guy, but I think he's mostly when he's against Trump and that I guess brand of conservatism. He's mostly against populism and he's mostly against protectionism. He hates protectionism and plus the instability that's kind of surrounded Trumpism. I'm stalling.
You are stalling. You're not answering the question.
All right, let's just go with. I don't remember the guy's name. Let's just go with Thomas.
No. No, it's Karl Popper.
Karl Popper. Karl freaking Popper. I just wanted you to see my butterfly blanket again.
I'm sorry, I can't give that. I won't. I can't get that to you. Didn't get the name, and neoliberalism is not enough of a reason. I'm sorry.
What would have been? What were you looking for that?
If you had expounded on that more and just sort of just kind of how he just the sort of the economic sort of impact that he had on George Soros. I would have accepted that, but no, I can't.
Like Karl Popper was known for. There was a specific school of thought. I remember. What was it called? Because it was it's not Popperism or anything. Let's see what it was.
Oh, well, you can Google it now, but yeah, I would. Maybe you would give you would have a half point if the leaderboard were in your house, but it's not.
You son of a.
I've got the paintbrush of power. So,
no, that's cool.
And the flamingo wallpaper of death.
See, so kids, the lesson is just because you made a video about it doesn't mean you know anything about it.
Oh no, you know a lot about it. That's such an important detail. But this is the Impossible History Quiz, and it's not called that for nothing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see what hard question I can ask you now.
All right, I'm ready.
I was strict on you with the diseases.
Sorry, no. Just to be clear, I fully deserved it after the horse question. But even when I was writing it down earlier today, I was just like, "This is evil." All right, hit me.
As you referenced at the beginning of the stream, I'm from Kansas, so I wanted to bring some local history to the attention of the audience. Approximately, how many Civil War battles were fought in Kansas? And two-parter question. Name at least one of them. Oh, and Bleeding Kansas does not count. It has to be during the actual war. Yeah, Bleeding Kansas does not count.
Yeah, no. I know it's not, which is why I'm not going to get it. All right. Approximately how many? Would you accept a half point if I guess approximately how many? Because I don't know.
Yeah, if you get the number right on the dot, I'll give you half a point for sure. Yeah.
Right on the dot?
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty low number.
It is a low number. He's trying to peer into my soul.
I am. I'm gonna let.
Don't look at the chat. Oh,
I'm not looking at the chat. And besides, I'm way back on the chat anyway because I was
freaking vlogging through history is here. Don't vlogging through history is a liar.
I can't see any of their comments. I can't see his comment. I can't see any of their comments. So I'm gonna go with I'm gonna let the apostles of Christ be my guide and say 12 in recognition of them.
Oh, I was like, where are you going? No, it wasn't 12. It was 4.
Fuck.
Third of that. You should have said a third of 12.
If you count skirmishes.
Well, actually, if you count Bleeding Kansas, which some say that's where the Civil War truly began with 1855.
When do wars begin anyway?
Yeah, right. Yeah. There were 9 skirmishes as part of Bleeding Kansas, where there's at least, a handful of people that died. I think they include the Potawatomi massacre in that as well. But no, so were you able to list any of the battles? Okay. The most famous battle.
Potawatomi massacre is the only one I could name, and that isn't even for the Civil War. Yeah, no, I was gonna say, and I told Matt, I was just like, God, I hope he doesn't ask Western theater after 1863, but I will add anything that happened west of the Mississippi, except literally 2 miles that way. I won't know.
Yeah, we're way west of the Mississippi.
Yeah, so that's not even close to my wheelhouse at this point.
Well, if you would have said,
you got me, Mr. Beat.
If you would have said Quantrill's Raid, which you're familiar with Quantrill's Raid, that technically was a battle because you could say some people try to fight back, even though it was mostly a massacre.
I thought that was in Missouri.
They came from Missouri. Okay. They were bushwhackers.
I'm familiar with them, but
and then vlogging through history here in the chat, man, he's just like, I don't know if he's Googling or what, but he got Mine Creek, and then Fort Baxter massacre, and then the Battle of Marie de Seine.
There you go. They're laying down. They're laying down the knowledge. That's great. All right. So let's see here. Okay. All right. So History Dose, thank you so much for $10. Nice crossover. It is a nice crossover. It's always I do genuinely really enjoy our conversations.
Likewise,
Mr. Beats. I always have a fun time when we chill and do fun stuff together. Also, just chatted with Team YouTube, who informed me that the loser of this quiz gets demonetized. That would be fun. That's like, oh, you want to make this interesting? Loser closes their AdSense account.
Yeah. Whew. Wow.
No. That would be. I'd be like, nope. Goodbye. Although, maybe one day I'll emulate my buddy Carl over at InRange and get rid of the old AdSense account, just to not give Google money. But not yet. I have very expensive videos and.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. So if I had my Patreon supporters are amazing, and they put a roof over my head, but I couldn't make. I couldn't build crypts and have zombies if it was only the Patreon money. But yeah, and if I don't plan on having kids, but if I did have a kid, then every week it'd be who would win, Patton versus Lee. Thumbnail of me going. I would totally sell out immediately. But but for now, I'm making my weird little movies.
Mr. B, why do you make president videos? To feed the kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. No, I often kind of like, just with my pretentious ass, I often kind of poo-poo a lot of YouTubers for like appealing to the masses or just kind of making sort of cheap disposable trash, which I stand by like 90% of the time. Unless they have kids. And then it's like, oh, well, totally, yeah, of course. Okay, yeah, please. Patton versus Lee 3 times a week. Why not? Yeah. Actually, my first, I don't know if you remember the Checkmate Lincolnites video that I did about the generals.
Absolutely.
It was about the who had better generals. But my original title for that was Grant versus Lee, who would win? But I,
Yeah.
I changed it. I didn't think, I thought it might have been too, not quite as like, I wanted to talk about more than just Grant and Lee, but I it was a shame because I like that title.
Well, when I made my video, who killed more, Mao, Stalin, or Hitler? I mean, I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, I mean, of course,
but it's still fun. And also, just because you do a topic like that doesn't mean it can't be scholarly. Like I was very careful with what sources I used in that video. So yeah, I mean, it's you can have it both. It can be good too, I guess.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, you can't have it both ways for sure. Well, you do a great job of that, I think. Like where you kind of like it is, you pick topics that are of like controversial, but also of just general interest. You know what I mean? Like, and that are and also are like kind of resources kind of for the here and now, right? Like, you're just like, okay, people are talking about, they're arguing about this on the internet, but nobody has like a proper like framework of research for like referencing for this. So like I'll create one, you know what I mean? Like the Stalin and Mao thing. It's like, because you see so many of these like interactions on social media that just go in circles and circles and circles and circles. And like, and where nobody kind of actually brings any, not even sources, but just like any kind of like sort of scholarly honesty to the table at all, and that's not, I'm not saying that they're idiots that are better than them or whatever. It's just that like these arguments go in circles, right? And like, and oftentimes people aren't like, I mean, you used to be a teacher, like, and you have you've made your career as an educator. I've had the I've benefited from learning from your knowledge and a lot of the academics and teachers and longtime educators that I've known like on this platform, and like to become kind of like a reasonably competent researcher. And but like at the same time, like most people just do not have the skill set, like they just don't know the difference between like a good source and a bad source. They don't know the difference between, they don't know necessarily even what to look for, just because why would they work at State Farm and they don't need to worry about this. It's just not, they just sort of, and, I mean, certainly, yeah. So it's important to kind of like, so what you're doing is kind of more filling a need, I think. Like, I think sort of there's a big difference between what you do and kind of the disposable pop history trash that I kind of like to complain about, which is mostly just Wikipedia summaries, you know what I mean? And it's, a lot of these channels that are kind of like just there to, it's like, okay, well, people they look for education on YouTube. So we'll make, really cheap, quick, easy videos about like, who was Edward Longshanks? And we'll just have a guy in a British accent read the Wikipedia article and shit it out. And we'll make 7 of these a week, and rake in money. And they do, and
I think ChatGPT writes their scripts at this point.
Probably. Yeah. Have you done much AI stuff? I haven't. I can't figure it out.
I tried, but it's not good. It gets stuff wrong. Like, so I mean, I call it an idiot. I'm like, hey, I probably shouldn't do that, because when they take over, I'm going to be the first to die. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But they're so confident too. These AI bots are so confident. Like, oh yeah, there was a. I mean, anyway, yeah, it's what it's one of the things I gotta compliment you on, since you've been like complimenting me so much, is like your delivery. I mean, you're a performer, really. So when people forget that what we do is we specialize in communication.
Yeah.
We don't specialize in this content. I mean, we may know it by accident because we cover it so much, but it's not what we really work on more than anything is how we deliver the information. And so it's really discouraging to go on YouTube and to watch history videos, and it just sounds like they're just reading off a script. There's no passion. They're not even trying to like make it relevant, and yet they're still getting lots of views because people are searching for this stuff anyway, and it's evergreen content a lot of times. Even if it's a 5-year-old video, the people are still showing up in searches.
Yeah.
So I think that also kind of hurts the just the curiosity. Because we have a curiosity crisis, I think, in this country more than anything. People are they just stop being curious.
Yeah, exactly. Be curious, not judgmental. But no, but I think you're right. I think people, I think oftentimes people know.
I'm sorry, I just hopped on the soapbox. I'm gonna get down.
You're good. No, I think it's I think you're right. I think it's oftentimes if you're, and it goes into the thing we were talking about with tribalism too, where it's like if you know that you're right, then like what else is there to learn?
It feels good to be right.
It does feel good to be right.
It feels good to hear new information that already meets what you already believe. Oh,
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, totally. And it's I mean, and yeah, I think you're totally right about that. I don't think you're just kind of
I know
saying things that are true. Yeah, I'm right about that. All right, let's move on to our next super chat here. Then we'll move on with the questions. But we're making good time. We're kind of working through this. So the one with Brandon was like 3.5 hours or some shit, but we're cracking through. All right, Ian, thank you for the $10. Says curious for either of your takes on Huey Long and/or Napoleon Bonaparte. Net positives for their times that advance their respective societies progressively, or evil despots and authoritarianism and authoritarians. As always, love, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. What do you think? What do you think, Matt?
I think
you feel that? I'm going to get a delicious fruity beverage. I'll be back in 5 seconds.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a bit of a weird comparison. I think Napoleon, sure, you can argue that he was a net positive in certain ways. Like he kind of sneakily reformed France. A lot of people focus on the conquest, but they ignore the social reforms and economic reforms and stuff like that. But it's weird to me to compare him to Huey Long. Huey Long was straight up populist. So his critics back then and even today call him a demagogue. I don't know if that's an accurate term because he seemed to truly believe in what he preached. I mean, he was, and he was also somebody like, whenever he used others, like he could definitely stab some backs, and he was advantageous, and in some sense he was your typical politician. But I think
especially Louisiana politician.
Yeah, but that whole, again, it's a systemic thing that maybe you're really wanting to critique, because I do, like, based on everything I've read about Huey Long, I think his heart really was in the right place. I think he truly believed in like helping the underdog, which to me, I always have a soft spot for these people despite their flaws. I don't know. And Napoleon,
I'm not sure Napoleon in his heart of hearts was like, I'm going to help the underprivileged. I think Napoleon wanted to help Napoleon,
Exactly.
I largely agree. I think, I think Huey Long was kind of, I think he was a Louisiana politician, right? And that's no Louisiana politician has ever been like not self-serving in some way. You know what I mean? And I'm not exaggerating. Like it's a kind of a tradition. And he's coming kind of after, he's sort of, he's coming after a generation after like the Bourbon Democrats down here, who were like a huge force after the Civil War and who, really fought dirty politically. And then the populists, of course, it's kind of like in many ways, it's kind of a fusing of those two political traditions, so there's a certain kind of context to Huey Long, but I agree. I think largely despite the many glaring flaws and the corruption and there's a bit of demagoguery. I don't think that's like completely off the mark. I think ultimately, his heart was in the right place. I'm not a huge fan of Napoleon, I must say. I think I said it kind of flippantly once in a Q&A video a million years ago when no one watched my channel, and a bunch of people kind of took me to task. They were like, what do you mean? I don't know. I just don't, people who conquer I don't know. It's like, if you're going to like bring an army someplace, you're kind of a fucking piece of shit, and hell, I would include Sherman and, the quote unquote good guys of history in that too. If you're bringing an army any place, you're like kind of a dick, there's obviously degrees of dickery, but, right. But, I just don't think I find it very hard to sympathize with like, or I don't know, when you're sort of, weighing kind of the more progressive elements or the humanistic elements against the kind of like near constant warfare and demagoguery. I just don't think it really. I don't think it's as complex and nuanced as maybe people make it out to be. But I could be wrong. It's not my area of expertise. I'm a moron. Who cares? I will say one thing. And we'll move on to the questions in a little bit. But this just kind of came to mind. One interesting sort of complicated legacy thing that I've been kind of getting into recently is, and I don't know if I'll ever make a video about this. Maybe I will. Who knows? But I watched about 2 years ago. I watched Gone with the Wind for the first time in about 10 years, and I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I vibed at that movie so hard. It's just so well made and so cinematic and so like strikingly modern. And just to see that in the big screen in color in 1939 must have just been the coolest shit ever.
It said the word "damn" in it.
They did, yes. They did say "damn." Yeah, at the end. Yeah, that was bad. But at the same time, it is a very racist film. It's like after the Civil War, they've got the scene with the carpetbagger, like the white guy and the black guy are in the carriage and they're dressed up all nice and they like go by some Johnny Rebs who are like limping along, missing limbs, and they're just like, out of the way, out of the way. It's like Jesus Christ, complicated legacy for sure. And, it's also a movie that's kind of gone on to be sort of kind of just beloved by every kind of fake nice Southern mom and grandma, in the world, just like, oh, I just love Scarlett. Oh, fiddly-dee, and that's obviously not great. But I have to say, just as a piece of filmmaking, it was outstanding. Like I saw it once when I was a kid. I saw it again in film school. I've watched clips, obviously, for research here and there because it's a huge part of like his Civil War historiography. Like that movie is like an enormous part of why people think about the Civil War the way they do. But just sitting down and watching the whole thing with a buddy of mine on HBO Max, and we were kind of making fun of it, but at the same time, it was like, the scene where they're fleeing Atlanta was just like, oh my God, this is so awesome. We really dug it. Have you seen that movie recently, or do you remember it at all?
Not recently. No, I need to watch it again. It's on HBO Max, you said?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I was I was probably in my mid-20s when I saw it, so a while ago.
Yeah. So last year?
Yeah, last year.
It's certainly. I mean, it's and as far as kind of problematicness and racism, it's leaps and bounds above Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation is just,
oh my gosh,
is honestly, that I don't think that celluloid, like, it's kind of groundbreaking in some ways, but I think that celluloid, frankly, is like only worth wiping one's ass on.
Yeah, it's crazy how that was such a blockbuster and how it was such a high budget thing for its time. And it's sad how influential. I mean, that's a big reason why the KKK had a resurgence in the late teens and early 20s. It's insane.
Yeah, totally.
Movies have a lot of impact. That's why you really want to have an influence. I mean, maybe you were the only one who has it right. We should all become like filmmakers here. And
you know what? I think you're probably right about that. That I am right. I think
I'm always right. That's right.
I'm always right. Yeah. Okay, should we let's move on to our next questions here. So I'll hit you with mine. This is question number 7 from Mr. Beat. If you're just joining us, I lead 2-0. I ran out of space. It should say Atun-Shei, which is
he doesn't even know how to spell his name.
The username. It's not my name. It's my username. It's a rather unfortunate one at that, but whatever. I'm stuck with it. Okay, here's my question. 7th question for Mr. Beat. Let's just set the stage here. In order for Mr. Beat to win the game, he needs to answer all of the next questions, or he has to answer 3 of the next 4 questions correctly.
Right.
And I can't get a single one right.
Right.
So that's what those are the stakes. That's what's at stake here in the live stream tonight. Let's move on. My question is, what does Monticello mean in Italian?
I did not expect these questions. It's so random.
It's presidential.
Okay, well, Monticello. Monticello. I didn't even know it was Italian, so
It is Italian, and it's 2 words.
Like the Christ Mountain or something, Mountain of Christ, something to do with that. Jesus. He's like the Father. I'm on the right track, aren't I?
Cello.
That's not helping me.
Cello.
Mountain of
Cello.
talking the cello talking mountain. I don't know.
Cello.
Little Mountain.
Hey, yes.
Oh,
Little Mountain.
You helped me way too much on that.
No, I all I did was say cello in an offensive accent. I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Beach has scored his first point of the night, everybody. Will he overtake the defending champion, Atun-Shei? Well, I'm not a champion. Brandon won last time. So, but it's possible. Things are heating up in the live stream tonight. What have you got for me there, Matt?
Okay. Oops, sorry. Well, thank you. I feel better. I got at least one right. It was nice of you. Okay. Oh, this is a fun question because what was Harvard, which, as you know, as everyone knows, it's the oldest university in the United States.
Indeed.
But what was Harvard originally founded to teach? Like the purpose of the school?
But that's the question.
Yeah.
It was founded to train Puritan ministers and to and there was also the native conversion that was going on coming out of Harvard, but it was mostly to train ministers.
Yeah, ministers of religious doctrine. Yeah, you got it. Look at you. Another easy one, I guess. Softball.
Well, I knew it was. I was kind of second guessing myself because I knew that there was although there weren't that many Native Americans who went to Harvard, but it was also like it was used as a tool to like the whole idea was like we got to train ministers to like go out and convert Native Americans. So I was sort of, if that was what you were looking for, that might have gotten a little.
People are right. Too easy. By the way, I just popped in my head the reason why he called it Monticello is because it was a literal little mountain that overlooked this big valley. If you go to Monticello today, it's beautiful. Like you can see, and it's on top of a little mountain. Gosh.
No. See, you did know that.
Oh yes, thanks.
I don't think I helped you. I think you knew. I think it was deep in the recesses of your brain, somewhere, waiting to break free. I actually don't think I've been to Monticello, but they have their YouTube channel is a bit of a hoot. They've got this guy who dresses up as Thomas Jefferson and does like little comedy skits. And they're Lynchian, unintentionally Lynchian. But the Monticello YouTube channel, check it out. Okay. All right, let's answer a couple of our super chats. Thank you everybody for sending them in. Let's see. All right. I haven't checked in a while. I just want to say this is the point of the stream where I apologize if I missed it or anything like that. I'm kind of I'm trying to keep an eye on it, but I also, want to, I have a guest. I want to, I want to make him feel appreciated. So I apologize if I missed any. Here's Icy Saracen once again with another, I guess it's Australian dollars, but Australian. Did some Union soldiers or generals share similar animosity with Confederates toward black people? Oh yeah, big time, 100%. Yes.
I mean, Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
Yeah. Did.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. No, there was an enormous amount of racism within the Union Army. The famous film Glory is not that far from the truth, as far as just sort of how, the U.S. Colored troops were, and that's the name of the, organization. I'm not just saying that just to say it. It's the United States Colored Troops. How they were kind of received by the other soldiers. Many Union soldiers didn't give a fig about emancipation. More did toward the end of the war, and it wasn't like a non-issue. But yeah, a lot of people were, a lot of Union soldiers were explicitly said, no, I don't care at all about that shit. I'm just fighting to keep the Union together.
Yeah, a lot of them started to care when they were actually down south, when they were like actually saw it firsthand. They're like, "Oh, okay, yeah."
Mm-hmm. Again, I've never even been to the south before.
Yeah, precisely.
Oh, and the most inaccurate thing about the movie Glory is the strange accent of Matthew Broderick.
I don't even necessarily remember it. It's like a weird
it's the weirdest accent. I don't know I don't know anyone who ever talked like that, but
well, I think there's like a bit of a there's sort of this idea, and honestly I've done it totally when I'm like reading like quotes and stuff. I've done like a Union soldier, it's like
me too. Yeah.
I don't know who ever talked like that, but I think it's like maybe a combination. It's like sort of Jeff Daniels attempting to do a Mainer accent, which he isn't terrible at, but like that maybe that just sort of seeped into popular culture. But there is this sort of, I think a lot of Union soldiers in media just have like the weirdest accent. I think they're just like, oh, it's kind of old timey sounding or whatever. I mean, this is kind of one of my pet interests, as I'm sure many viewers are aware, is kind of historical accents, English language accents. I don't know anything about any other accents, but there wasn't one factoid that I think is pretty cool is that there wasn't a noticeable was that the difference between British and American accents in the 19th century was not super noticeable until the end of the Civil War. I think it'd be kind of cool to see a American war film that kind of reflects that, maybe, where, the Americans have kind of a transatlantic type of accent. When you think about a lot of the speaking of Civil War guys, a lot of the young Civil War, people who would march to glory in the Civil War, or at least become super famous, who fought in the Mexican War, they might have had, kind of slightly effete, aristocratic, kind of British sounding accents, which I think is kind of fun to think about.
I always think of the Southern accent as like just a slowed down British accent. That's what I've always, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like there's some like old Michael Caine acting class video that talked about this, where he basically said like, that like a Southern accent is that in a British accent, every word is very distinct, and you stand very still. Every word it's very stock still. The words are in a line, the stiff upper lip. At least Southern British accent received pronunciation, but in a Southern accent, the words just kind of lean on each other. It's the same accent, but it's slow, and the words kind of bleed together. Which and even that accent is borderline, insane foghorn leghorn. It's what Southern people. I mean, some people still sound like that, but very few.
Yeah, more of a stereotype. Yeah,
it's a bit of a stereotype, but it's also, it's more true to like old timey. Like there's like phonograph recordings and stuff. Like that's not like far from how people, in the South 120 years ago sounded like. White people, that is.
I shout out to Fred Armisen, who did this great bit on his stand-up special a few years back, where he went through all the major accents across the United States, and he had a map, and he just went through and did them all. And it was really well done.
That is cool. That is cool. No, yeah, I love that kind of stuff. Language history is very, very cool. All right, let me get through a few more super chats. Vlogging through history, thank you so much for the $20. Would love to see you both do a response to Rageaholics video on Abraham Lincoln being America's first dictator. Love both your channels. Thanks, dude. What I would, I haven't seen that video. What I think would be cool, what I'd love to, maybe we could do this together, man. What I would love to do is I would love to make a video about Lincoln's dark side, about Lincoln the pragmatist, Lincoln the politician, because there's some protein there. You know what I mean? Like he was like kind of skeevy. You know what I mean? Like the honest aid thing is like is a little deceptive, and I think he's like. Honestly, I like. Did you watch Game of Thrones?
Absolutely, yeah.
Remember Varys?
Yes.
Varys the spider. I honestly think of Abraham Lincoln in much the same way that I think of Varys. Is that like
he was more good than bad? Yeah.
Yeah, where he was a. Ultimately the intention was his heart was in the right place. The intention was to make life better for everybody and keep the American experiment going. And in much the same way as Varys in the Song of Ice and Fire is kind of ultimately trying to make things. It's like the only major character in that book and TV series who's actually trying to make things better for like the realm, for the country, for the normal people.
The big picture,
picture, rather than just like, what hair color is the person whose ass is on the throne, which is just the preoccupation of most of the people. But, it's like, I think Lincoln kind of had the long view. He was ultimately more good than bad in terms of intentions, but he wasn't afraid to like plot and scheme and get his hands dirty to get there, and I think that's like, oftentimes, you sort of see the monument and you see the guy going like this and all the quotes and the Gettysburg Address and in the hat and the beard and the pictures and, oh, what a kindly fatherly face. And it's like, you kind of forget that like he was kind of a piece of shit.
People know that he's not my favorite president. He's still a top 10 president for me though. I did make a video where I gave my top 3 reasons why I have problems with Lincoln, why he's not my number 1 president. But yeah, the video specifically that Vlogging Through History is referencing, I started to watch it, and honestly, it was like, it was also kind of cringy because it was pretty clear that the guy was not coming at it from like leaning on experts. He was coming at it with an agenda, like an agenda first. Like my opinions of Abraham Lincoln have always been shaped by, I grew up, of course, like all of us here in the United States. I mean, Abraham Lincoln was, you learn about him in elementary school. And he's humanized early on. Like I remember reading a book in 3rd grade about him and how it was like, oh, he lost his son and all this stuff. And you have that strong connection with him. And then in middle school, high school, you learn about, oh man, he kept the country together. He ended slavery. He's the one who ended slavery and all these great things. They don't have time to get to the nuances. And so when I was in college, I started to learn about the nuances. And then I think I kind of made the mistake of having my own personal biases and ideologies that I lean towards. I'm not very ideological now, but I was when I was a young man. Sure. That kind of shaped my, viewing at him differently. Plus, like just being a contrarian, that's appealing for a lot of people like this. What's the name of this guy's channel, by the way? I forgot. You probably haven't even heard of this guy.
I'm not familiar with.
Oh yeah, he has like an hour video just completely trashing Lincoln and calling him basically a dictator. And I think he's a
bunch of people sent me that video when it came out, but I didn't even, it was like,
but you just admitted though, like, he wasn't all perfect. And, the 3 things I always bring up are the whistleblowers imprisoning.
The journalists and stuff.
The suspension of habeas corpus that was not really constitutional and really should have been through Congress. And in my opinion, and then how he treated Native Americans wasn't all great either. Those are kind of the 3. But yeah, otherwise, I think someone who's really influenced a lot of people in recent years has been what's her name, Doris Kearns Goodwin. With her book Team of Rivals, because that book, I mean, and plus the movie Lincoln was mostly based off that book. And you really, it kind of even
it's a good movie.
Oh yeah, I love it. Spielberg did that, and of course the man Daniel Day-Lewis, who maybe that's how Lincoln really sounded. I don't know. That apparently he did.
Apparently, yeah.
But
pretty nasally, high, kind of breathy voice. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I forgot what my point was.
Doris Kearns Goodwin.
There's ever since there's been like, the legend has even gotten bigger. And now he's a vampire hunter, and there's memes about him being a wrestler and all this. So I just think his place at the top in history is just going to be there for maybe another 100 years.
No, I mean, I think that there's like, I'm always good for a little, I'm always up for some mythology busting, especially American mythology. Altogether too self-congratulatory. And I don't, do I think it's a good thing that the American experiment continued and that the Union came together, and especially that the slaves were freed? Yeah, fuck yeah. Union man through and through. I don't think I need to necessarily prove that to anybody. But at the same time, like, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna simp on a 150-year-old ideology that ultimately I have nothing to do with. Like, ultimately, my interest is in these people as people, and that's what kind of interests me about this time and about really any time in history, right? Is like, what were these people doing? What did they think? What were they up to? What were their lives like? I think being following any kind of ideology, no matter, necessarily ultimately how beneficial, just because the other side were real pieces of shit it's just not terribly interesting, right? It's just not going to take you to an interesting place. And ultimately it is a form of an American mythology. And like I said, I'm always up for just popping those particular bubbles, I think that the Native American, the treatment of Native Americans is totally legit. I think the one example that a lot of people point to, the Dakota War, is, if anything, Lincoln was, responsible for saving more people than he actually ordered executed. But ultimately, the dude is an American president, and like, it's his name on the document. You know what I mean? So if he said, "Oh no, don't hang the children or the women," or whatever it was, like, it was something like 200 people were slated to be executed. It only ended up being like 20, but that's only 20 people got hanged by the government. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, ultimately, it's his freaking name. He's an American president in the 19th century.
Yeah.
The dude's a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. Like, ultimately, if you run a country, you're an asshole.
You can make an argument that Noam Chomsky was technically right. Like, you can make an argument that every president since World War II was
been a war criminal.
Maybe other than Jimmy Carter. I never asked you straight up, who's your favorite president?
It's a great question. I don't know. I think there is some truth to the Abraham Lincoln love. Just he kept the country together. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a huge deal, right? Like, that's, to my mind, and maybe I'm just again, a Yankee soy boy, tofu man is my preferred nomenclature, however. But I think probably democracy on this continent would not have lasted very much longer if the country hadn't been kept together. And I think I'm generally I think I'm kind of all over the place in terms of my ideological commitments, just in the fact that, in some ways I'm the most radical person ever, but in other ways I'm totally a milquetoast centrist. And in this way, I totally am. I do think that, like, liberal democracy is kind of one of the best things that's ever happened. It's like, you look back at feudalism and it's like, wow, that was bad. You know what I mean? It's kind of miraculous that we have a society where, we don't have a god king who we have to bow to every time he rides by in his chariot, I think it's kind of hard to argue with that, sort of the greatest crisis that America faced. And he's the guy who led the country through it. That's not nothing. Other than that, I think you also have a good point with Washington, man. I think, like, as far as like, if it weren't for slavery, he would be pretty untouchable. He would. I mean, as far as just genuine commitment to fairness and you know, and a genuine, you know, with the genuine intention of like creating the most fair system of government possible and like laying down power when he could have wielded it forever. I mean, but that's also, I mean, you know, that stuff is, again, a very big deal, you know, especially kind of given the historic context of the time, you know. I've also got a soft spot for John Adams, but I've also got some huge criticisms of him too. But generally, I think he was better than most people make him out to be. I don't know if I have one. I really don't. I sort of
a good answer.
Think, yeah, I kind of think that
we shouldn't glorify just individuals, right?
Yeah, I shouldn't glorify individuals, but I really can't like. I can only kind of think of less bad options because ultimately I do. I don't know. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I kind of think that like every world leader is kind of horrible. You know what I mean? I'm not sure I could ever think that somebody who is president is like ultimately like a good person. I don't know.
I mean, I tend to admire the ones who don't. They're like someone like Martin Luther King Jr. But even I never forget finding out negative stuff about him. Even and it just like broke my heart. I'm like, what?
Yeah, for sure. But no, you're totally right. Yeah, we shouldn't glorify individuals for sure. All right, we'll grab a couple more super chats here, and just before they disappear from the queue entirely, I want to make sure I get as many as possible. And again, apologize if I haven't. And then we'll move on to the home stretch of our quiz. What's your favorite cup of coffee / tea that you've ever had? I don't know. I'm not. I'm a bit of a basic bitch when it comes to coffee. You know, I think Folgers is just fine.
Whoa.
Yeah,
I'm a coffee snob. I don't really like tea.
Oh, really? Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm far behind. People are talking about cholera. That was like an hour ago. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm doing my best. I am going. If you play D&D, you are a product of Satan. Fact. That is very true.
People really believe that.
All right, let's see this. All right, John says, hey, Mr. Beaton, Atun-Shei, did you know that Gerald Rudolph Ford was actually born with the name Leslie Lynch King Jr.? I did not know that. Is that true?
Yes, Leslie. I know Leslie was he got made fun of or something. Or that's why he.
Yeah.
Gerald. I knew. Maybe I forgot it was Leslie, but it was like some weird name that he got made fun of. Yeah, I have to Google this. You know.
Interesting. Weird. Okay. Well, let's move on to our questions here. Let's continue with the quiz. All right. So I'm going to just so everybody knows, it is currently 3-1, me in the lead. Behind by 2 points. Place your bets now, ladies and gentlemen. We are going into the final 3 questions here. And here is my question for Mr. B. In episode 10 of season 14 of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the gang visits a laser tag rink run by a man named Larry Takashi. Which post-Civil War American president inspired Larry Takashi's nom de guerre? With the last name of Crazy.
Nom de guerre? What does that mean? Like
It was the nickname of the owner of the skater rink, which was inspired by a post-Civil War American president. Are you familiar with the show?
Yeah, a little bit. I never really watched it, but okay. So the pinball,
laser tag, but that doesn't have to do with anything. It's a post-war president.
What was his nickname again, or his name?
His name was Larry Takashi. It's not a clue.
But he was named after. I'm just gonna have to guess. Anyone from after the Civil War all the way to the present, huh?
Shortly after the Civil War.
Let's go with. I mean, there's no Philly references. There's no presidents from Philadelphia, and so or Pennsylvania even. Buchanan was the last one. So maybe that's has nothing to do with Philadelphia.
It has nothing to do with anything.
Oh, okay.
Any of this.
Then I'm just going to have to throw one out there.
You're going to have to guess. No.
What's the weirdest one? How about Kashi?
Boom, 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 boom,
Chester Arthur.
No, Rutherford B. Hayes. Rutherford B. Crazy was the nickname of the roller skate. Rutherford B. Crazy.
Rutherford B. Crazy. I like it.
Well, you can't win them all, Matt. But maybe we'll up the ante in our last questions here and go into to double points.
Oh yeah, to make it interesting.
That's what we did with Brandon. We made the last.
Did you?
We did. We made the last two worth double.
I didn't watch the whole thing when you were on with him.
How could you? It was only 3 hours long. You don't have 3 hours as a father and a full-time video maker. So that's what we did. We did a double, and then we also did a thing in the last question where you could bet all of your existing points.
Oh, nice! Just like
Jeopardy. Some would say we made up the rules as we went along, but I would disagree with that interpretation.
Yes, it's all destiny.
Okay, all right. So what do you got? What you got for me, Matt?
Okay. So you have to be specific with your answer here, but
okay.
There was a specific reason why Civil War photography changed how people viewed the war, and why was it that war that was the war that made people have their minds changed about it through photographs?
Okay. I would imagine it would be when you've got photographers like Matthew Brady taking pictures of corpses, and specifically Union photographers taking pictures of wartime carnage. I would imagine that would contribute to a lot of the stress and a lot of the anti-war sentiment, specifically in 1864. Am I right about that?
Yeah, but that's not what I'm looking. Okay, maybe I should have worded it differently. There's something. Okay, it has nothing. I mean, what you said is true, of course. Mm-hmm. But what I'm looking for specifically has to do with the technology of it. So, like, what was the trend of technology like right before the war that made it so that Brady was even able? Maybe I'm giving you too much hints now.
No, yeah, you might be. So that the fact that those guys were actually able to go out. So I would have the invention of the tintype. So you had portable developing stations.
Yeah, and keep going.
And so it was no longer this really big, bulky thing. You could bring it in the back of a wagon, and you could travel around with it. And the plates. Okay. The plates. They could be.
I should just give it to you. Go ahead. That's fine. Yeah.
Is that right? The plate that you put it on.
I don't even know about that. But the thing I'm looking for is and maybe it's a half a point. I don't know. But the thing, the technology essentially matured right before the war. So like it was cheap enough where they were now produced in higher quantities.
Oh, mass produced.
Yeah, I wouldn't say quite mass produced, but yeah, they were produced enough where like, oh, it's not like unheard of to get one.
Well, so, I'll leave that up to you, Matt. Do you think that's worth half a point or no?
Maybe I'll wait to see what your question is. No, give yourself a full point because you're right. I mean, you were absolutely right.
A full point is generous. This is the impossible history quiz, not the history quiz for where everybody wins. So one.
He's being too nice.
3.5, and
you actually wrote half. Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. So things are really heating up now. All right. We'll hit a few. We don't want to be here all night. We'll go through the next few questions. I want to hit just a couple of super chats beforehand. Cold asks, have you ever thought about doing a video about Andersonville Prison? I think you'll be able to do a very in-depth dive on it. I have not thought about that. Probably unlikely not really in my wheelhouse necessarily, but hey, don't, never say never. Never say never. Could be cool. Ethan says, I've visioned all the great historian YouTubers uniting against the dark tide of conspiracy theories like a last alliance of elves, dwarves, and men. From your lips to God's ears, brother. Shepherd of the Force, thanks for the $2. Let's see. All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for all of these questions. Is the Eric Foner Civil War book a good and reliable book to read about the Civil War? Eric Foner is great. Reconstruction is the bomb.
Right behind me.
Yeah, Eric Foner's Reconstruction is the text. It is if you want to learn about Reconstruction, read Eric Foner. I was on another podcast that was where somebody said this person was a very nice podcaster or whatever, who said that he went to bars in Denver and with his copy of Reconstruction and would Foner pill random people at the bar.
Phoner pill.
It was kind of like, okay, I respect it, but
sounds a little, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thanks for the $5, Patrick, but I won't display your message because you're talking shit about another YouTuber. I don't know this person. I don't care about them, but I don't want to necessarily. No. It was, maybe I might have alluded to them earlier. But that's all right. I'm moving on. Certainly don't want to start any drama here. Okay, so back going with our Gone with the Wind discussion. Warlord of Britannia sends $10. Thank you. It says Clark Gable's on the short list of men I'd go gay for. He's really hot in that movie, that's for sure. Also, Ulysses S. Grant, duh.
I mean, Franklin Pierce was clearly more attractive than Grant.
I tend to agree with that. Christopher Plummer, specifically Sound of Music. Yeah, he's pretty hot in that. Anyway, he's been watching since 3K. Still excited for each vid. Fuck yeah. Thank you. Okay. Why don't let's move on to, let's kind of burn through a few of these questions. Like I said, we don't want to be here all night. I will move on to question number 9 for Mr. Beat. We have 2 questions each. So
right.
I think, all right, as per the long-established Impossible History Quiz rules, question 9 is going to be worth double. It's going to be worth 2 points.
As written for generations.
So it was written, so shall it be done. And then the final question, each contestant will have the option to bet all of their existing points. Okay. If they get that right. So all right. So here we have a question for Mr. Beat. Question number 9 from me. This is worth 2 points. The hit song "Everyone Wants Your Money" can be found on which Electric Needle Room LP?
Why are you doing such an easy question? Okay, trying to escape.
You want another one about a horse?
Trying to escape the bigotry. It's by
That's absolutely correct. It's absolutely. I thought because it was like a 10-year-old video on like your 3rd channel, so I was like, maybe he's forgotten about it. But you never forget about the music that you write, do you?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, my band is Electric Needle Room, and wow, you just promoted it and give me a free answer. Now I feel bad about it. You should have a full point for that last question.
No, you have a full point.
That's very kind of you. I guess it is history, isn't it? Technically history.
Technically, since it's from 2013. Well, no, but plug it more. Say,
Oh, yeah.
Mr. B makes great music, and he's yeah.
Some of them are history songs. My most popular songs are all about the presidents. I have a song about every single president in American history. I released the Trump song after he was out of office, and people were like, "Is he just making fun of him? Why is he doing this?" And I'm like, "No, I have songs and videos about all the presidents," and they're all confused. But yeah, I haven't made one about Biden yet, but when he's out of office, that will happen. And just my brother is the drummer, so shout out to my brother Steven. We haven't performed live for a while though, but yeah, you can check us out. electricneedleroom.us is the website. Oh, and
Okay.
I am MrBeat.com. I'm Mr. Beat from
Please have a microphone.
There we go. Mrs. Beat will be happy with
Oh, cool. Oh, that's cute. That's very cute.
Be like this the whole time. Okay.
That's kind of ingenious. I love that. That's kind of awesome.
It is.
Maybe I should paint a plug on my flamingo wall in creepy serial killer black paint. All right, hit me with the next question.
Okay. All right, get this out of the way. This is actually a difficult one, so I apologize. What book by Roger Williams was so controversial that Parliament ordered all copies of it burned? If you get just part of the title right, that's fine.
All right, so well, we have to specify that this is very likely not my friend Roger Williams, who lives on the North Shore, who is a science fiction author. This is in fact the other Roger Williams who founded Rhode Island.
Yes.
So I would have to. I don't remember the title of the book. I'm not even sure that this is the right one, but I believe it is it's the one. It's the one where he says religious intolerance is cringe. It's like, I think tolerance is in the title or something, right? It's like the plea for tolerance or letters for a Christian world or something. But it's about like religious tolerance.
To be honest, I don't even know what it's about. I was just shocked that it was all the copies were burned by Parliament. I think the book that you're thinking of is different. I'm going to look it up here to make sure because
Because there was one famous one that he did, unless I'm just like totally wrong. But I don't think so. There was one famous one that he did was specifically about like the virtues of religious tolerance. And then I think there was another famous letter where he kind of said like, oh, maybe Indians are people too. And everybody was like, what?
Yeah, I think, okay. So this is not the same. I don't think it's the same. No, this book apparently is his major work though. I just looked it up. It's his, I've never read it to be honest. So,
I'm not surprised. I probably have only read quotes. Well, hit me. How bad do I have it? Am I gonna know immediately what you're talking about when you?
I don't know. I thought that. Okay, it's called "The Bloody Tenet of Persecution for Cause of Conscience." That was his big book that Parliament was freaking out about that he released.
Wasn't that the one about religious tolerance? Maybe.
It was. So if it was, then I would say give yourself a half point.
I am gonna
help us out.
Yeah. Help us out. Bloody Tenet of Persecution, which is best known for its arguments supporting the separation of church and state. I think that's.
Yeah, I'd give you half a point for that.
Are you sure? I honestly don't think that's. I think that's. I'm not sure that's strong enough. But if you're, I'll take it. I want to win.
Who's going to remember that title? I don't know.
Who's going to remember the name?
Plus your gimme question you give me last, so I think we're good. I think that way it's around number 2. It's 4-2.
Okay,
and I still have a chance
because
it's all
right. Yeah.
Okay,
then that's what we'll do. All right. So and then it's another half.
You could have just put a line. All right, that's beautiful.
Okay, perfect. All right. All right, cool. All right, and then all right. So we just have one more question left. Let's go through some super chats, and then we can wrap this game up and say goodnight. Opinion on the movie Black Mass with Johnny Depp. I haven't seen it, but that's the one about Whitey Bulger, right? Connor, thanks for the $5. Aspiring history teacher here. I'm a big fan of both of your channels. Oh, that's great.
Nice.
Do you want to warn Connor about?
No, it's a great profession. I don't want to discourage anyone because I loved it. Overall, I loved it. I miss it sometimes.
Yeah. No, I kind of feel that. It's sort of being I mean, I don't miss some of my like day jobs that I used to have too much. I mean, I do this full time, which is awesome, and ultimately, it's like my life is way better. But sometimes it can get kind of lonely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of time like working alone. You know, I kind of miss I was a tour guide for a long time. I kind of miss the community of being a tour guide in the French Quarter and kind of living in a bohemia and partying with with
I was actually
people.
I was going to bring this up to you. There was a big, the podcast, This American Life, they did an episode where they looked at tour guides that were like essentially giving bad history. They were just making stuff up.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of tour guides are terrible. Yeah.
I didn't realize it was so common.
Oh my God. It's so common. Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of tour guides have no idea what they're, like
Wow.
are very, very bad. But there's good ones. There's good ones. I mean, I'm sure especially when I started, repeated all sorts of fucking false nonsense, but you kind of learn and you get better. And yeah, and kind of by the end, I'd gotten very studious about kind of what I said. But at the beginning, I just repeated I just like, okay, so this stop, so I can just like I just go to other tour guides who've done it for years. Oh, so I can just like copy your script. Oh, okay, I'll just do that, and just maybe throw in a couple of my jokes. But yeah, it's kind of what we were saying earlier about like about just sort of literacy of sources. You know what I mean? At the time, I didn't know, like, I barely knew the difference between academic and pop history. Like when I was in 2012 or whenever, when I was just a wee lad. Yeah, I mean, I went to film school. I wasn't trained in this stuff. I kind of had to learn it all myself and just talk to actual like teachers and academics who knew what they were talking about. You know what I mean? Can we get a beard off going on between these hunks?
Oh, you probably win. This is as good as it gets for me.
I mean, mine's this is like a month right now because I shaved for Frozen 50s Man, which we shot about a month ago. So I'm growing it. But which, speaking of, Frozen 50s Man #3 is coming. It's a little delayed, unfortunately, just because it's nobody's fault, just circumstances beyond our control. Post-production's taking longer than expected.
The economy's fault. That's whose fault it is.
Yes, it's the economy's fault. But it's going to be the best one yet. It's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be out next week.
Nice.
So, and I'm currently in the set. This was this flamingo wallpaper is one of the sets of Frozen 50s Man. It's a hotel room. That the number on the door is 69. We went to Home Depot and we got like a hotel room. Maybe see if I can show it to you without destroying my whole setup here. But
I didn't say economy. I said commies.
Oh, commies. Oh yeah, of course. There's commies. Number 69. Yes, commies. Yes. Yeah. It's definitely the commies. Although, yeah, well, there's lots of commies in this new episode, which all the pinkos who follow my channel will love. No, you guys are gonna laugh your asses off. It's gonna be great. All right. Okay. Cody, thank you. Nice profile pic, dude. Thanks for $20. I appreciate your videos and you pointing out the myth that is the lost cause. Live in the South, Georgia. We have Rebel Flag stores. I've been to Georgia and I've been by them. It's just nice to see true history, not whitewashed by the daughters of I assume you mean the Confederacy. Yeah, I mean, it's. Thank you. I definitely appreciate that. I mean, it's. There was one. I go to North Georgia quite a bit, kind of just on my way to various places. I go to the mountains of North Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina quite a bit. Great place to hike, and yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, especially that area of the country, North Georgia in particular, which was quite strongly unionist, is probably the highest concentration of Confederate flag stuff that I've seen really anywhere in the country. But the Mid-Atlantic is quite bad too, like Maryland, Northern Virginia. Delaware, weirdly enough, yeah, it's sort of the border states. There's quite a lot of Confederate merch out and about, as they say.
I always get a little scarier when I see Confederate merch and flags flying proudly in northern states.
Yeah, because it's like at that point, it's like you're just a racist. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Where I can get the argument in the South that like, oh, this is just a cool symbol that we've kind of and it's not like we want slavery to return or the Confederacy to return or anything.
Yeah. No, there is a bit of a, exactly. There's like a bit of a sort of like, oh, maybe they're just kind of misinformed and, it's just about Southern pride or whatever. But I think, I do think though that was truer 10 years ago than it is now. Like
a shift for sure.
Yeah. Like I think if even in the Deep South, if you're waving Confederate flag shit, like you're pretty openly, it's not just about Southern pride, like there are other symbols for that are more socially acceptable, these days. I think in Metairie Cemetery in New Orleans, I was there shooting some B-roll for the last Checkmate Lincolnites episode on the Day of the Dead at sunset, appropriately enough. And I noticed, I went by the old Army of Northern Virginia tomb, which is a huge mausoleum. It's actually where Jefferson Davis was initially buried. And fresh flowers, Day of the Dead, big tradition down here, you go to tombs and you leave flowers on the Day of the Dead. But yeah, fresh flowers put there that day.
Yeah.
And it was, but at the same time, and it's kind of like, ugh. But at the same time, it's like, it's not, it's their flowers, they're not, it isn't a huge Confederate flag. Whereas 10 years ago, maybe it would have been, what I mean?
I see. Yeah.
I think that generally, specifically, I think Confederate stuff, I think like racism and bigotry have like roared their heads in really ugly ways in other areas. And I'm especially worried for, our LGBTQ brothers and sisters at the moment. But I think like specifically Confederate kind of style racism, I do, and I've said this, Checkmate Lincolnites or whatever, I do think it's on the way out. I don't think I think it's that, maybe those particular cultural sort of impulses aren't going away, but they're going to take a different form. I think the out and out Confederacy glorification is not long for this world. But maybe I'm just being too optimistic.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I noticed that. Definitely Gallup polls have shown a shift since, specifically, I think Charlottesville was a turning point, and a couple other events around that time, even a couple years before that. So
yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to our final pair of questions.
All right,
let's call it a night. This has been a great stream, and I just want to say, whoever wins, we've all won by being here tonight, playing this legendary game, this culturally significant game that has provided so much meaning for so many generations of people. So I will proceed with my last question. And once again, I'd just like to remind everybody of the time-honored rules. For question number 10, you are allowed to bet all of your existing points on the outcome of these questions. So, Mr. B, I ask you, Matthew.
Yes.
Are you willing to bet your 2 points to potentially double them into 4 points based on the outcome of this question?
That means I would tie.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you lose all of it, it wouldn't matter, would it? So yeah, I guess I won't, because like I'm kind of counting on you getting it wrong the last one. But if you get this right, then it'll be a tied game if I get it wrong. So you could tie the game if you bet your points. Oh, that's right, because you won't bet anything. Okay, right. I guess I'll have to bet. Yeah, let's bet it all then.
This is a bold man. This is a bold, brave man that you're looking at right here, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Mr. B betting both of his points on the successful conclusion to the answer to the last question, which is, which early president used the pen name Humphrey Plowjogger to anonymously write political essays in the 1760s?
Humphrey Plowjogger. It's not Washington. I could see it being Adams. I can't really see it being Jefferson or Madison. Yeah, let's go with John Adams.
John, absolutely correct.
Oh, I was ready.
It is John Adams.
Yes.
Which means that Mr. Beat has doubled his points. And the game is now tied. Would you look at that? The
Wow.
game is now tied. 4 points and 3 points and 2 halves. The game is now tied. That adds up to 4.
That sure does. I'm not good at math, but yeah. Okay, so
All right. What's it going to be? Lay it on me.
this is a tough one too. But fascinating. This is another colonial. British soldiers that were sent to Jamestown to put down Bacon's rebellion struggled to fight after consuming this plant in their salads. And when they consumed it, they just started going crazy and like dancing around and doing weird stuff. And do you know the name of the plant?
In Virginia.
In Virginia. Jamestown.
There's a very obvious question, or there's a very obvious answer, but I'm not sure. And it might be it. But I don't know if I think it would just make you sick. But then there's the other answer, which is maybe a little bit more modern.
Well, the soldiers behaved weirdly, according to accounts.
Weirdly.
Like they...
So it could be tobacco, but that necessarily, because tobacco back then was like not like it is today. But I'm gonna have to. I don't want to necessarily overthink it, and I'm gonna say hemp.
No, it's not hemp. That's a good guess, though. This was a weird Jimson weed.
Jimson weed.
Have you even heard of it?
What the fuck is that?
Exactly,
No,
right?
I've heard of it. God damn. God damn.
Yeah, it's such a bizarre thing. Oh wow.
Jimson.
Somebody got it in the comments.
Oh shit. Well, maybe they should have all my points. All right. Well, and that was the thrilling final of the history quiz number 2. As you can see, we have no clear winner. It is a tie. It is a tie, just like soccer games or whatever, because you can tie whatever. I don't know. I've been watching Ted Lasso because it's back.
Oh, great!
Yeah, we have tied the game. Everybody, there's no clear winner. Perhaps there will have to be a rematch.
Sure. This was fun.
And I will bathe in your proverbial blood.
Well, now that I know what kind of questions you bring to the table, I'm gonna have to go to Wikipedia.
No, this was a this was a problem with Brandon too. He softballed me like hard. And then he only pulled ahead. I think it was because he bet all of his points and he got the last one right, and he pulled ahead of me by like a point, or maybe I bet mine and then I got them wrong. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But that was a similar thing. But now we know. And for those of you who are watching, for other creators who are watching and might want to get in on the Impossible History Quiz, you know the caliber of questions that we have, and they're tough. It's not called impossible for nothing.
Yeah, I think. Get some other folks on here.
Yeah, fuck yeah. But yes, I would love a rematch. But yeah, well, should we call it a night, Matt? We've been doing this for 3 hours. It's been a long night, but unless you have anything else you'd like to tell the people, perhaps a post-game interview about how you hustled on the field, but
I just went out there, just giving my all, just trusting my teammates, as just doing all I can, and
what about the big man? What about the big man upstairs?
Yeah, so that's I think you caught all the super. I don't know, it might have been a couple of super chats that you might.
Oh, good. I thought I was caught up, but
somebody asked about DC statehood. Patrick did.
Oh, was that Patrick asked about DC? Was it a super chat or?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, there we go. Great.
I think DC should be a state. Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick. Oh, I completely agree. No, why? There is no reason why it shouldn't, other than Republicans don't want people voting.
It's text.
Am I wrong? Is there a better argument than that?
Yeah, it goes against what our founders believed. These people in the city,
they're dead.
That's a very good point. It's an appeal to a authority fallacy.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, let's call it a night, everybody. Thank you so much for all the super chats. I hope you had fun. Thank you so much, Mr. Beach, for being my guest and for playing a very good game. Inconclusive though it may be, you fought hard and pulled ahead from a devastating. It could have been a devastating loss for Team Beat, but snatched a draw out of the jaws of defeat. So well done. And everybody, be safe, go with God, stay out of trouble. And thanks for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me.
I'll end it there.